Chapter 778. This Lord Jia Yutsuan's appearance was not bad. He had a round waist, a thick back, a wide face, square ears, sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, a straight nose, and gills. He had a dignified appearance, a tall figure, and a long beard that hung down elegantly. There was a sense of righteousness between his eyebrows, and he was scholarly but not weak. He was very much in line with the image of an outstanding scholarly official in the empire that valued martial arts. I don't care how well you write, but you have to be able to fight, or at least look like you can fight. Judging from Lord Jia's resume, his career as an official was relatively smooth. He was only 30 years old, but he was transferred to be the magistrate of Jinling. Jinling was a place of wealth and riches, where the culture was flourishing. There were many aristocratic families, and the people knew etiquette. It was a first-class position, as long as you knew how to be an official. Of course, Lord Jia would become an official. He understood very well that as an official, especially in the South, the most important thing was to have a good relationship with the aristocratic families. He had to know when to advance and when to retreat. He had to understand the big picture. You should know how to judge a dispute between a commoner and a wealthy family. You should know what to do when there's a dispute between two wealthy families. The prefect of Jiayu village knew this very well. Therefore, after he entered the Rongwa mansion, he put on a friendly air and saluted to both sides with a smile on his face. Seventh Master Wang, brothers of the Wang family. Third Miss Jia, General Shui, greetings. In any case, the most basic etiquette had to be done. Even if Tanshuan's heart was itching with hatred, she still had to fulfill her duty as the head of the Jia family and greet the Jinling prefectural master. She was just about to invite everyone to the hall to have tea when Seventh Master Wang impatiently made things difficult. There's no need. My brother's life and death are still unknown. I'm not used to the Jia family's tea. After Magistrate Jia's arrival, Seventh Master Wang's words became sharper. After all, my brother has tasted the tea of the Jia Mansion before. It can be seen that the tea of the Jia Mansion is not something that can be eaten easily. Jia Tanshun said coldly. Mr. Wang Qi came to bully Rongwa Manor first, then slandered our Jia family. Since you are so aggressive, Rongwa Manor will not easily forget what happened today. Both sides were at daggers drawn. Jia Yutsuan stepped out with a smile and said, "Please calm down. Harmony brings wealth. I'm confused right now. Can Mr. Seventh explain why you came to Rongwa Manor to pick a fight?" Mr. Wang Qi sneered. "My brother Wang Zixing went missing after visiting the Rongwa Manor the day before yesterday. The Wang family received news today that my brother has been killed by the Jia Manor. Today, I'm here to demand an explanation." Jia Tanshun angrily said, "There is no such thing. What a load of nonsense." Jia Yutsuan was also surprised. How can there be such a thing? Could it be that Mr. Seventh believed the slanderous words of a villain? The Rongwa residence is the descendant of the valiant martyrs, a heroic soul that is revered by the world. Why would they do such a thing? Mr. Wang Qi sneered. Yesterday, there was a murder in the east garden of the Rongwa Manor. Many maids and servants in the manor saw it. If you don't believe me, you only need to summon the people in the manor and interrogate them. Then, the truth will be revealed. I know that you have returned to protect the Rongwa Manor, but a human life is as important as the sky. Everything must be done according to the law. My brother's soul is not far away. Although the Wang family is not talented, we must seek justice for him. Jia Yutsuan's face darkened. What do you mean, Mr. Wang Qi? Although we have a great relationship with the Rongwa Manor, we will never be biased. I just believe in the innocence of the Rongwa Manor. How could they do such a thing? He looked at Jia Tanshun with a magnanimous and upright expression. Third Miss, don't worry. As long as I am here, I will not let the Rongwa Manor be slandered for no reason. I will definitely find out the truth and give justice to the Rongwa Manor. I have a good relationship with your father. You're like my niece. If the Rongwa Manor is bullied, I will definitely seek justice for you." Jia Yutsuan and Mr. Wang Qi sang the same tune and had already forced the Rongwa Manor into a corner. Moreover, they used an open and above-board conspiracy to suppress the Rongwa manner, making people speechless. Jia Tanshan was so angry that her body trembled slightly. She clenched her fists. She had never seen such a powerful battle. After all, she was just a young girl. Before she could speak, Mr. Wang Qi said, "This matter should not be delayed. Master, please summon all the servants and maids of the Jia Manor." "Oh, right, especially two maids. One is called Qingwen, and the other is called Lu Zhu. They are important witnesses." Needless to say, Qingwen and Lu Zhu were the first maids who found Wang Zixing's body and fainted. Jia Tanshan clenched her fists and said angrily, "Mr. Wang Qi is really well informed." Mr. Wang Qi said lightly, "You flatter me. After all, if you don't want people to know, don't do it in the first place." Jia Yutun looked at Jia Tanshan and said softly, "Third miss, you see." Jia Tanshan said with grief and indignation, "Master, you don't know. My grandmother is sick in bed. These 2 days, the manor has not been peaceful. Us juniors did not dare to disturb her. Now that Master has summoned the entire manor, everyone is in a panic. If we disturb her," Shui Baochai also said lightly, "if something happens to the old lady, then I will bring the army and flatten the Wang family. No one in the world can protect you." Mr. Wang Qi raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "You talk big." Jie Yutsun frowned and thought, "This is indeed a problem. The old lady is old and virtuous. She is sick and should not be frightened. She is also my elder. How can I bear to disturb her?" He looked at Mr. Wang Qi and said, "Mr. Wang Qi is too reckless. You can't do this." Mr. Wang Qi said unceremoniously, "Then what do you think we should do? Are you saying that because of the old lady of the Jia Manor, we don't need to investigate the case and my brother died in vain? That's not necessary. Didn't Mr. Wang Qi say that there are some maids called Qingwen and Lu Zhu who are important witnesses? Then we can only summon and interrogate these two maids." Jia Yutsuan said, "It's just 2 little girls. They shouldn't disturb the old lady, right?" Mr. Wang Qi pretended to think for a while and nodded with indignation. "Master, please be wise. Ask the 2 little girls first. If it doesn't work, then summon the others." Jia Tanshan listened to the 2 of them talk back and forth. Gradually, they put the Jia Manor on the fire. Their methods were cunning and vicious. They were simply evil to the core. Summon Qingwen and Lu Zhu. Qingwen was fine, but how could he let Lu Zhu, that little girl, come? She would be so scared that she would say everything. Then everything would be over. Seeing Jia Tanshuan's hesitation, Jia Yutsuan's face slowly sank. "Third miss, this manor wants to clear the injustice of Rongwa Manor. Why are you still making all sorts of excuses and only summoning 2 little girls? Is it also inconvenient for your manor? Could it be that there's some inside story that I don't know about?" Mr. Wang Qi sneered, "They're guilty." Then, the Wang family was already in an uproar. Sun Lang and Jia Sherdao had already arrived at the battlefield. Looking at the situation, he patted his brother's shoulder. "Go, Imperial Envoy. It's time to show off." Although Jia Sherdao had fought many tough battles in the past few years and could be ranked among the famous generals of Tianyuan, it was one thing to plan strategies and go into battle to kill the enemy. It was another thing to pretend to be an Imperial Envoy and bluff. After all, this was much more exciting than fighting a war. His brother was a good boy. If it were an old rogue like Jia Su, there would probably be no pressure at all. But Jia Sherdao was different. He was already feeling guilty. Then he heard his brother cheering him on. "Everything is worth trying. Try. Think about it. Pretending to be an Imperial Envoy is so exciting. You can easily lose your head." Jia Sherdao complained. "How can an elder brother let his younger brother do this? You're still making sarcastic remarks." Sun Lang whistled. "What do you mean? After all, we're brothers on the surface." Jia Sherdao sighed. "Elder brother, this is the first time I've done this. I'm still a little scared." Sun Lang comforted him. "Don't be scared. You'll get used to it. Once you accept this setting, you'll feel super good." Jia Sherdao sighed. "I still have to get used to it," Sun Lang said. "Of course, we'll do it many times in the future." Jia Sherdao licked his lips, feeling his heart beating fast. "Many times? "Elder brother, I'm afraid I can't take it." The more Sun Lang listened, the stranger he felt. In the end, he suddenly reacted and said angrily, "How dare you take advantage of me?" Then, he lifted his leg and kicked Jia Sherdao far away. "Get to work." Jia Sherdao was in the air. He wanted to open his mouth and scream, but when the voice reached his mouth, he swallowed it down. He couldn't scream. If he screamed, everything would be over. He felt a huge force send him into the air. Facing the wind, he looked down and saw a group of people not far in front of him. He had to carry out his elder brother's plan and play the role of an imperial envoy with a golden token arrow to stir up the chaos in Jinling and break the enemy's rhythm. His elder brother was behind him in the dark, and the enemy was in front of the stage in the light. He stood in front of his elder brother from behind. At this moment, Jia Sherdao was enlightened. Yes, he couldn't hide behind his elder brother anymore. He said he wanted to fight side by side with his elder brother, but these 2 days he had been following his elder brother, listening to his words, and being his follower. He rarely gave his own ideas, rarely contributed his strength, and was used to following and obeying. Jia Sherdao, how long are you going to be weak and coquettish? You're enjoying your elder brother's long-awaited protection and guidance, but you have to know that what your elder brother needs now are fellow soldiers and partners, people who can understand and support him. What are you doing now? Why are you still afraid and hesitating? A sharp light flashed in his eyes. The wind whistled, and everyone had heard the movement. They were all shocked to see a person flying in the air. Xue Baochai's expression changed, and Jia Tanshan said in surprise, "Cousin Sherdao." Jia Sherdao moved his body and wanted to land smoothly, but the force that sent him to the sky quietly changed direction and cooperated with him. It was as if the wind was his friend, surrounding him and allowing him to land on the ground in a very handsome posture in front of everyone. Seventh Master Wang said, "You're the kid from Ningwa Mansion. What are you doing here?" Before he finished, Jia Sherdao, whose confusion disappeared, had a sharp look in his eyes. He imagined his elder brother's arrogant and pretentious look and imitated him. He took out the golden token from his arms and pointed it at Jia Yutsuen and the people of the Wang family. He said sternly, "How dare you? The golden token is here. Kneel down." Sun Lang, who was watching in the dark, shook his head and said, "You're too inexperienced, and you don't have any foreshadowing. According to the usual routine, you should be pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger and lead him to speak. Why are you so angry?" Chapter 779. In the blink of an eye, Jia Sherdao had already taken out the gold medallion. He had to admit that Sun Lang's craftsmanship was really good. With the help of the gold innate spiritual energy and his meticulous micromanipulation technique, the golden token arrow was actually 3 times more realistic than the original. If the king of writing, who claimed to be able to imitate all things in the world, saw this, he would definitely be shocked and then treat Sun Lang as his lifelong confidant. After all, Sun Lang had been in a high position back then, and he had seen a lot of things like gold medallions and imperial edicts. It was not difficult for him to imitate them. After all, the 7 planets' spirit power contained the true power of tracing everything back to the source of all things. It could control the changes of physical properties and was very suitable for this kind of delicate processing. In fact, if this guy had collected the 5 spirit powers of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, he would probably start to figure out how to make a realistic and useful physical doll. In comparison, the gold medallion was not worth mentioning. Jia Yutsuen was a standard imperial civil official. He knew the rules and respected the imperial power. The hierarchy was deeply ingrained in his bones. Seeing Jia Sherdao suddenly take out the gold medallion token arrow, the domineering appearance, and the flamboyant words, this Jinling prefect did not even consider the possibility that it was a counterfeit. After all, he would never have thought that there would be such a bold person in the world who dared to forge the gold medallion. So he quivered, and before he could process this information in his mind, he bent his knees automatically and said loudly, "Jinling Prefect, Jia Yutsuen, greets the king." Jia Sherdao looked at the prefect of Jinling who was kneeling down, and a strange feeling suddenly arose in his heart. This small gold medallion was so powerful that it could make the prefect kneel down directly. It was just a gold medallion, not a weapon, and did not contain any power, but it was so intimidating. He knew that it was not the gold medallion that was powerful, but the power and majesty that this medallion represented. It was the accumulated power of the country and the royal family, the martial arts of the imperial court, the power of the king, and the power of life and death. This was the emperor's token and the dignity of the strongest country in the world, and no one could go against it. And the gold medallion in his hand was fake. He had seen it with his own eyes. His elder brother had casually created it. But Jia Yuzuan didn't see through it. No one saw through it. They could only believe it. They could only kowtow. This feeling of stealing the power of the king for one's own use, this feeling of stealing from the heavens for one's own personal use, this feeling of casually toying with the dignity of this country, this feeling of cuckolding the emperor. So exciting. Holding the gold medallion in his hand, the younger brother looked at Jia Yuzuan. Hundreds of thoughts raced through his mind. No wonder his elder brother liked to do this kind of thing. It was too exciting. The feeling of playing everyone in circles, the feeling of dancing on a tightrope, really made people involuntarily excited. Of course, he was thinking a little less. For Sun Lang, this kind of excitement also included the joy of, even if you find out in the end, you won't be able to kill me, and the excitement of, I want the emperor to watch helplessly as I do something to his favorite imperial power and not be able to do anything. It was too discordant. Jia Sherdao was slipping into the abyss of learning bad things. He had tasted the joy of messing around and immediately began to tremble. His gaze was like a knife as it cut across the stunned members of the Wang family. He sternly said, seeing the gold medal bestowed by the emperor and not kneeling, "Do you want to rebel?" With Jia Yuzuan giving him courage, Jia Sherdao's momentum became stronger. The Wang saw that the good situation was suddenly turned around by Jia Sherdao, and they couldn't accept it psychologically. Moreover, this guy had taken out the gold medallion. What was this? But the label of rebellion was too big, and the magistrate had also knelt. How could they not kneel? The more timid and unreliable fighters of the Wangs knelt first, followed by 7th Master Wang and a few others. Seeing that the situation was over, they sighed in their hearts and knelt down as well. Their hearts suddenly clenched. This was far beyond their expectations. Jia Tanshun had been in a daze from the beginning. She didn't know how this cousin of Ningwa Mansion became an imperial envoy with a gold medallion arrow. Seeing that the magistrate and the Wangs had all knelt down, she hesitated for a moment and seemed to want to kneel as well. However, she felt a force on her elbow, and she couldn't lower her body. Shue Baochai smiled and whispered, "You don't have to kneel. It's okay." Tanshun didn't know what the gold medallion was about, but Shue Baochai knew. Where her husband had made the gold medallion, she had seen it and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She didn't expect it to come in handy so soon. But pretending to be an imperial envoy wasn't a bad idea. Jia Sherdao was already in the role at this time. He didn't know that his beloved sister-in-law had helped him avoid the punishment of the transformation device. He looked around at the crowd, snorted, and said lightly, "Lord, please rise." Since it was Lord who asked him to rise, the others had to continue kneeling. Jia Yuzuan's heart was pounding. He didn't expect this to happen. What was going on? Why did Jia Sherdao have the gold medallion? That Lord was here. He gradually had doubts in his heart. He heard Jia Sherdao ask impolitely, "Lord, I was ordered to come back to Jinling to do business. I was just about to visit Madame Dowager when I heard this noise. What is going on? Why did the Wangs bully the Ronghua mansion and force my sister-in-law and cousin?" Jia Yuzuan heard that Jia Sherdao began to accuse him without hesitation. He smiled bitterly in his heart and explained, "Lord, the Wangs came because of Wangxing." He explained the matter in a low voice. His position was fair. Jia Sherdao listened impatiently. After all, other than his brother, he knew about Wangxing the best. It wasn't the case at all, but the truth didn't matter. The important thing was to mess up this matter. He said, "Nonsense, nonsense. The Ronghua mansion is a loyal family. How could they do anything to kill Wangxing? What good would it do for the Ronghua mansion? Magistrate Jia, you have to know that it's not true. You repeat it again. Does this mean that you believe it too? At this moment, the seventh master straightened his neck and said, Golden Arrow Messenger, my brother is missing, and there's a murder case in the Rongwa mansion. No matter what the motive is, the Jia mansion is always suspicious. I was worried about my brother, so I reported it to the government. What's wrong with that? This is the law of the empire. Jia Sherdao said coldly, Did I allow you to speak? The seventh master snorted, You're covering up for your family. If His Majesty knows that you did this with the Golden Arrow token, he won't let you go easily. Jia Sherdao was stunned at first, and then said proudly, Really? Then you can report it to the emperor. After Sun Lang heard this, he was greatly comforted. Goodness. You already have 30% of your elder brother's skill. His extravagant tone was very similar to the face of the commander of the Brocade Guards or the manager of the East Factory. He was extremely arrogant and looked like he had someone above him. His fearless posture startled Jia Yuxuan and Seventh Master Wang, and they became more and more surprised and doubtful. Even Jia Yuxuan, who had doubts, couldn't make up his mind. It didn't look fake. If the token was fake, how could he dare to be so arrogant? Didn't he know that if this matter was reported to the capital, not only would he be cut into pieces, but his whole family would be executed? Jia Sherdao turned to the magistrate and said, From now on, I'll handle this matter. The seventh master said loudly, No, it's about your family. According to the law of the empire, you have to leave. Before Jia Sherdao could answer, Sun Lang's voice came into his ears. Now, this bastard's mouth stinks. Slap him twice. Remember, use the golden fan. Jia Sherdao had seen the hateful face of the seventh master before, and he had the same idea. However, he was worried that this old man's kung fu was not weak. If he used his kung fu to resist, he might not be able to hurt him. Hearing his brother's advice, he was overjoyed. He walked over and slapped the seventh master's face with the gold medal in his right hand under the shocked and angry gaze of the seventh master. Noisy, the power of the gold medallion was infinite. Seventh Master Wang did not dare to dodge or block it, so he had to take the hit. Although the gold medallion was made of gold ingot, it had been solidified by the spiritual power of gold, so it was harder than steel. When the gold medallion hit Seventh Master Wang's face directly, the result was obvious. Seventh Master Wang's mouth was bleeding, and his cheeks were swollen at a speed visible to the naked eye. His brother continued to teach him, Now, read the lines. Jia Sherdao didn't have time to think about it. He looked up to the sky and laughed. He glanced at the furious Seventh Master Wang, and a mocking and proud expression appeared on his face. He waved the gold medal in his hand and laughed. Law, I'll tell you today. The law of the law is the law of the royal family. At this moment, the proud son of the Ningwa mansion looked like the emperor's eagle hound in everyone's eyes. He had completely turned into a villain. He was the kind that would be beheaded by the emperor in the finale. Jia Tanshun showed a disgusted expression and said in a low voice, Cousin Sherdao, how did you become like this? Shweb Baochai pursed her lips. Of course, someone had taught him bad things. After laughing, Jia Sherdao took over the judicial power from Jia Yuxuan. My lord, you don't have any objections, do you? From now on, I'll take over the problems of the Rongwa mansion. Please help me. After it's done, I'll report it to the emperor for you. Report it? I suspect your whole family will be executed. Jia Yuxuan complained in his heart, but he didn't dare to say it out loud. After all, the seventh master was a bad example. A gentleman wouldn't stand under a collapsing wall. He wouldn't repeat the same mistake. He asked in a low voice, By decree? What decree? Jia Sherdao took out a bright yellow silk from his sleeve and said calmly, It's a secret decree. The fewer people who see it, the better. I need your help, so you could take a look. Please don't leak it to others. Seeing this imperial edict, Jia Yuxuan was shocked. He immediately straightened his clothes and received it respectfully. He slowly unfolded it, and what entered his eyes was the emperor's appointed treasure and the vermilion seal of the martial arts hall. The brilliance flowed gently, and the aura of the treasure circulated. This was the treasure light of the emperor weapon, a genuine seal. Could it be real? He didn't have time to think about it. He quickly read the words on the decree. He stopped breathing. Although he didn't lose his composure on the spot, the prefectural magistrate's heart beat faster. His face was pale, and he couldn't hide the shock in his eyes. It was indeed a secret decree. The words used were exquisite, and the strokes were steady. It didn't look like an imitation. The contents of the letter caused great waves to surge in his heart. The emperor's order seemed simple, but it had a lot of meaning. It could make people understand a lot of things. The secret mission for Jia Sherdao was very simple. Return to Jinling, pay attention to the Rongwa mansion, ensure the safety of the Jia mansion members, and investigate everything. In order to prevent the unfilial sons of the royal family from faking the decree and driving a wedge between the emperor and the ministers, to prevent them from causing trouble and intensifying conflicts. Remember it with this decree. Jia Yutsuan's heart was beating fast. What was going on? What was going on? Was this decree real or fake? Why did Jia Sherdao have this decree? What did the emperor mean? What did he mean by driving a wedge between the emperor and the ministers? Jiasu didn't care about worldly affairs, and Jia Sherdao resigned. Was there anyone else in the Jia mansion who could be called minister? Why did he specifically write this decree shall be remembered? What did it mean? Wasn't it His Majesty's order for that man to come to the summer state? Could it be, or the emperor's heart was unpredictable? Jinling prefectural magistrate Jia Yutsuan was thinking too much. Chaos. Sun Lang watched all this quietly and sneered in his heart. The next one fell into people's hearts and drove a wedge between them. The round was over. Chapter 780. Beads of sweat appeared on Jia Yutsuan's forehead. Jia Sherdao smiled faintly, and his voice sounded like it came from the sky. My lord, do you understand now? Thunder and rain are all gifts from a king. Don't make a mistake. Jia Yutsuan said in a low voice, I don't understand. Actually, I don't King understand either, but whatever. Jia Sherdao followed Sun Lang's instructions and continued to bluff. He said meaningfully, it doesn't matter if you don't understand. Think more and you'll understand. This is a rare opportunity, my lord. Without waiting for Jia Yutsuan to answer, he said, then let's start the trial. My lord, I'm new here, and I need your experience. May I ask if there are any clues in this case? What kind of trial was this? Jia Yutsuan was confused and had to say carefully. Mr. Seventh Wang said that there was a murder in the East Garden, and two maids were important witnesses. Mr. Seventh Wang covered his wound with a silk cloth and said vaguely, yes. These two maids are important witnesses, especially Green Bead. Especially that Green Bead. As long as we bring her over and interrogate her, we will know at a glance whether she is telling the truth or not. Jia Sherdao shook his head and said, no, with all due respect, this is not the key. He looked at Mr. Seventh Wang and asked, I want to know how you know that the two maids from the Rongwa mansion are important witnesses. How do you know that there was a murder in the East Garden? And how do you know that your brother, Wang Zixing, died in the Rongwa mansion? Who told you all this? Mr. Seventh Wang's face changed slightly, and even Jia Yutsuan's expression was slightly unnatural. Jia Sherdao sneered and asked, is there something you can't say? Mr. Seventh Wang said vaguely, it was an honest servant in the Rongwa mansion. Jia Sherdao asked, what's his name? Mr. Seventh Wang shook his head hard. I can't say. If I say it, he'll die. This person told me where my brother was, so he didn't die in vain. The Wang family is indebted to him. I can't betray him. Jia Sherdao nodded. Then I'll have to report it. The Wang family is plotting a rebellion. They should be punished. Seventh Master Wang said angrily. As an imperial envoy, how can you abuse your power? Surnamed Jia, do you really think that the royal law of the empire can't punish you? What are you talking about? Jia Sherdao said calmly. It was a loyal, patriotic, and law-abiding servant of the Wang family who saw that his master was planning to rebel. So he told me about it. That's how the Wang family's crimes came to light. As for his name, I'm sorry. If I tell you his name now, he'll die. He's loyal and devoted to the country. I can't betray him. Seventh Master Wang was so angry that he couldn't say anything. Jia Sherdao on the other hand, said aggressively, "Are you going to tell me or not? Oomph. Do you not want to say it, or do you not dare to say it?" The look in Seventh Master Wang's eyes changed slightly. Jia Sherdao stared at him and said lightly, "I'm afraid the person who told you this wasn't a servant of Rongwa Mansion, but someone whose identity you don't dare to reveal." "Then who is he?" Seventh Master Wang lowered his eyes, and a drop of sweat slid down the side of Magistrate Jia's face. Jia Sherdao shouted, "Tell me." Seventh Master Wang suddenly raised his head. Jia Sherdao clearly saw that this person's eyes were bloodshot, revealing a looming madness. He was so scared that his heart skipped a beat. Then, he remembered that his brother was here, so he didn't have to be afraid. So, he stared back without showing any weakness. "What? Do you want to attack the Imperial Envoy? Does your Wang clan want to be slaughtered? If you're tired of living, then come at me." Seventh Master Wang took a deep breath, got up abruptly, and turned to leave. "We won't sue you." "Stop!" Jia Sherdao shouted. "This is Rongwa Mansion. It's not a place where you can come and go as you please. You won't sue me, and that's it. I'm going to hold you accountable for framing a loyal person and breaking the door to start a fight." Seventh Master Wang turned around, gritting his teeth. It seemed that he was extremely angry. Jia Sherdao shouted, "What are you looking at? Don't you want democracy, freedom, and justice? Then I'll give you justice. Tell me who told you this news. Tell me his name and hand him over. I'll ask Rongwa Mansion to call Greenbead and Qingwen as well. It's only fair that the two sides confront each other." He was full of vigor and was completely in the zone. He even performed beyond his usual level. "If you continue to frame me, not only will the Wang family be punished, but the person who started the rumor will also be heavily convicted. Don't you want the law? This is the law. According to the law of the Empire, those who falsely accuse others will be punished. Framing a loyal person is a triple crime." At this point, the passive situation had almost been completely reversed. Jia Sherdao said coldly, "Now, Mr. Wang, I suspect that you framed a loyal person and plotted against the Jia family. I order you to tell me where you heard the news immediately. If you can't tell me, I'll take you as the mastermind. Today, no one from the Wang family will leave. All of you will be imprisoned for investigation." Seventh Master Wang sneered. He had been slapped twice before, and his teeth were full of blood. Now, when he smiled, it was bloody and looked very scary. He said loudly, "All of you will be imprisoned for investigation? Mr. Jia, do you think you can do whatever you want in Jinling?" Jia Sherdao said casually, "Oh, do you mean that there is someone more important in Jinling than me, who has the Imperial Edict gold medal?" Seventh Master Wang's laughter stopped, and then he said fiercely, "The Wang family is doomed today, but don't you think you can do whatever you want? There are countless people in the Wang family who have been humiliated and wronged today. You have the Imperial Edict, so we can't do anything to you, but we won't let you kill us. When we go back, we will write a blood letter and go to the capital to report what you have done. Let's see if His Majesty will punish you." Jia Sherdao smiled slightly. "Welcome, but you can't go back." Seventh Master Wang seemed to have offended Jia Sherdao. He said sternly, "What? Do you really think you can stop all of us? Without the Imperial Edict and the gold medal, I can kill you with one hand. Who do you want to kill?" A calm and steady voice sounded in everyone's ears. Hearing this, Jia Sherdao's face changed. Outside the front door, there was the sound of horse hooves, and there were shouts and sounds of fighting. There seemed to be a group of horses coming. The sound of footsteps, the clashing of swords, shouts, and shouts soon came to an end. Dense footsteps came from outside, and the people of the Wang family who were guarding the door were forced to step back. A group of warriors with weapons rushed in aggressively, and together with the people of the Rongwa Mansion, they surrounded the Wang family like dumplings. Seventh Master Wang looked fearful. He gritted his teeth and said, "Jia Su, that's me." Duke Ning was surrounded by people. He stood on the stairs with cold eyes. "Wang family, one day without seeing each other feels like 3 years. You want to trouble the Jia family, but you bypassed the Ningwa Mansion and came to the Rongwa Mansion to pick a fight. You've learned a divine skill to bully women and children. Seventh Master Wang said coldly. This has nothing to do with you. Jia Su said lightly. What are you talking about? I've heard that you came to the Rongwa mansion to pick a fight with Wang Zixing under the pretext that he's missing. But I've already told you that it was your brother, that shameless bastard, who knocked out the maid and tried to disturb the old madam, and I beat him back. You have doubts and suspect that he's dead. Shouldn't you come to trouble me? What are you doing here? I've already told you where Wang Zixing is and what he's doing, but you're doing this. Do you think I'm lying? Wow, this uncle was so humorous. The Wang family was surrounded, and the well-trained troops of the Ningwa mansion had joined in. In terms of strength, the Wang family was already at a disadvantage. Plus, the other side had the Imperial Edict gold medal. Seventh Master Wang was furious. He looked at Jia Sherdao and then at Jia Su. So you've already discussed and planned to set a trap for the Wang family. Jia Su glanced at his son, and then his eyes fell on the gold medal in his hand. He knew his son well, and he could see the panic in his son's eyes. Others could be fooled, but how could he be fooled? A gold medal? Damn it. In the emperor's heart, Jia Ying was probably the biggest traitor since ancient times. How could he have a gold medal? It was a fake. This little bastard was pretending to be an imperial envoy. Anger rose in Jia Su's heart. Pretending to be an imperial envoy was originally the best way to break out of this situation. Moreover, taking advantage of the situation, he could do a lot of things. This was a very brilliant plan. If it were any other time, he would definitely clap his hands and praise and admire his nephew's bold and imaginative strategies and stratagems. But now, he was very angry. This was because his mentality had quietly changed. He heard Wang Zishan's last words. Combined with the doubts in his heart, he already had a bad guess. So, this idiot, he actually agreed. She had actually placed herself in danger. And you, how dare you ask him to pretend to be an imperial envoy? But Jia Su still did not flare up. Although he was furious, his tone was still calm. There's a reason for everything. If you weren't so aggressive, things wouldn't have come to this. Seventh Master Wang laughed. So you're saying that I asked for it? Okay, I admit it. He glanced at Jia Yutsuen, knowing that he could not count on the Lord. Seventh Master Wang sighed in his heart. Was it his turn now? He had both fear and expectation in his heart. The Wang family. For this family, they had sold their souls to the devil. Although death was the most difficult thing in the world, it was not so for some people, because sometimes death was relief. He said loudly, I admit it. I wanted to use this opportunity to frame the Jia family, so I planned this. They were all tricked by me, and this has nothing to do with them. I'll take responsibility for what I did. Since I've offended the Rongwa family and committed such a crime, I'll pay for it with my death. Then he slid a dagger out of his sleeve and stabbed it into his heart. Everyone exclaimed. Everything happened so fast that no one had expected it. Even the people around Seventh Master Wang could not react in time. Jia Sherdao reacted the fastest, but the two of them were quite far apart. Judging from the distance, he couldn't stop them in time. At this moment, he heard a low voice. Punch! Without thinking, Jia Sherdao punched out in the air. Then, a strong wind came from behind him, and with a bang, Seventh Master Wang's dagger broke. He rolled his eyes and fainted on the ground. Sun Lang said calmly, Tie him up. He'll be useful. Chapter 781. Everything happened very suddenly. From Seventh Master Wang taking out his knife to commit suicide to the Imperial envoy stopping him. Everyone only saw Jia Sherdao throw a punch in the air. The dark wind surged, and the steel dagger was immediately destroyed. Seventh Master Wang fainted silently. This kind of magical skill that could hit a cow through a mountain really shocked everyone. Jia Sherdao slowly withdrew his fist under everyone's surprised and admiring gazes. He said lightly, It's not that easy to commit suicide for fear of punishment. Men, tie him up. Now the soldiers of Ningwa Mansion had already rushed into Ningwa Mansion under Jia Su's lead. His words were very useful. Immediately, a few of the soldiers agreed, loudly, and walked towards Seventh Master Wang on the ground with chains and hemp ropes. Perhaps the power of the palm was too shocking, but the Wang family was momentarily stunned. They did not know that Jia Sherdao had faked the punch. After all, everything had happened so quickly that no one noticed whether he had pressed down on his wrist. They thought that this kid from Ningwa Mansion really had top-notch skills. The Empire worshipped martial arts and respected the strong. It was normal for them to be shocked by this move and freeze in place for a while. When the soldiers of Ningwa Mansion approached, they subconsciously stopped them. The two sides clamored and pushed. The smell of gunpowder was getting stronger and stronger. It looked like a fight was about to break out. At the critical moment, Jia Sherdao learned without a teacher. He completely forgot the fact that he had cheated. In an instant, he was possessed by a peerless master. With his hands behind his back, he said proudly, "What? Do you want to fight back? Come, I'll be your opponent." Attacking the imperial envoy. I think you don't know how to write the 4 words execution of the whole family. Jiasu had been standing on the steps with his hands behind his back, coldly watching his son's performance. Hearing this, he was angry. In my opinion, this little bastard doesn't know how to write it either. No matter what, the deterrence of the peerless master martial arts and the awe of the royal family's gold medal really did scare many people. When the Wang family heard this, they looked hesitant. Their expressions were not as firm as before. Most of them were peripheral members or even servants of the Wang family. They didn't know the coarse secrets of the Wang family, nor did they know why they had come. They were only brought here because it was said that Master Wang Zixing had been murdered by the Rongwa Manor. This was the most shameful provocation to the Wang family. When Grandpa Seven admitted that he had fabricated everything, many people were already murmuring in their hearts. Seeing Jia Sherdao's gold medal and Ningwa Mansion's covetous eyes, more and more people wanted to retreat. In this case, even if the few elders of the Wang family knew the truth, they couldn't turn the tide. The situation was hopeless. The enemy was strong and we were weak. We had to come up with a better plan. The elders of the Wang clan secretly exchanged glances. They all saw the sigh and sorrow in each other's eyes. A white-haired elder walked out and said, "Today, the Wang clan has lost. Envoy, please make your decision. Do you want us old men to go to the ancestral hall and kowtow to apologize, or do you want us to leave our lives behind?" Jia Sherdao didn't take the bait. He sneered and said, "What are you talking about? The Empire is all about the law. Everything depends on the evidence." Since 7th Wang said that he planned everything and framed the Jia family, then naturally he should be detained and taken into custody. After the truth is revealed, according to the Empire's laws, he should be sentenced and punished according to the Empire's laws. Why would I set up a private torture chamber? His words were so dignified that there was nothing wrong with them. After all, it was 7th Wang who admitted it first. Jia Sherdao saying that he should be punished according to the rules was undoubtedly in line with the basic laws. When the elder of the Wang family heard this, a glimmer of light flashed across his eyes. He said nonchalantly, "In other words, this matter will be handed over to the Jinling government, and the prefecture master will deal with it according to the Empire's laws?" Jia Sherdao nodded and said, "In principle, yes. However, I have the imperial order and the gold medal in my hand. Of course, I can listen to and guide Master Jia's work. I advise the Wang family not to play any tricks." Hearing this, Jia Yutsuan's heart skipped a beat. He was being roasted on the fire. What should he do? What should he do? From the beginning, he had been playing the role of a clay statue. If he could not speak, he would not speak. If he could not make a sound, he would not make a sound. This was because he realized that he seemed to have been involved in an extraordinary matter. That mysterious imperial edict had completely messed up his mind. Since ancient times, it had been true that being with the emperor was like being with a tiger. However, what was more terrible than being with the emperor was being sandwiched between the current emperor and a competitor for the crown. The affairs of the royal family were the most dangerous. Those who were involved in it would either rise to the top and bring glory to their ancestors, or be beheaded and their whole family executed. Jia Yutsuan was just being unjustly implicated. He was panicking. He kept thinking about the meaning of the imperial edict. That person came to Jinling to plan things. According to common sense, he should be following the emperor's orders. But why did Jia Sherdao also have an imperial edict and ordered him to stabilize the situation in Jinling in case the unfilial prince made a false imperial edict? And why did he add a nondescript sentence? This imperial edict shall be remembered. Who was lying? Whose imperial edict was fake? Was Jia Sherdao's fake? But the gold medallion and the imperial edict didn't look strange. Who would have the ability to fake such imperial items? And how did this guy have the guts to pretend to be an imperial envoy? This kind of thing could be exposed with just a letter, and then his whole family would be executed. What was he after? If Jia Sherdao's imperial edict wasn't fake, then could it be that the person was really making a false imperial edict? At least, he was using it to make a fuss for his own benefit. No. There was also a problem here. His Majesty had said in the imperial edict to prevent the unfilial prince from making a false imperial edict. This was very strange. Since His Majesty knew that there was a prince making a false imperial edict, why did he arrange for Jia Sherdao to stop it? Why not just issue an imperial edict to investigate? And this imperial edict shall be remembered. It sounded like this imperial edict was specially left for someone to see in the future. Or Jia Yutsuan's heart gradually sped up, thumping like a drum. He thought of the increasingly fierce battle for the crown prince in the imperial court, and thought of the wind blowing from his colleagues and friends. The war had stopped, and now that His Majesty was getting older, it was urgent to appoint a crown prince. Under such circumstances, His Majesty had sent that person to Jinling to do things, but secretly gave Jia Sherdao a secret edict with such content. Could it be? God, the more he thought about it, the more panicked Sir Jia became. He seemed to realize his current situation and was so panicked that he almost cried. If he could, he really wanted to take sick leave and get away from this matter as far as possible. It was too scary. He was panicking when Jia Sherdao's voice rang in his ears. "Magistrate, is everything okay?" Jia Yutsuan came back to his senses and nodded blankly. Then he heard Jia Sherdao say, "Okay, then the magistrate will vouch for you. You can go home first. Stay at home and be on call. If you abscond for fear of punishment, then His Excellency will also be implicated. It's not a big deal if you die, but if His Excellency's heart is implicated, then he won't rest in peace." Jia Yutsuan shivered when he heard that. He hurriedly said, "What did the imperial envoy say?" Jia Sherdao was stunned at first, and then he said angrily, "Was His Excellency distracted just now? Didn't you hear anything? Are you looking down on me, the imperial edict, the imperial court, and His Majesty?" The words "looking down on His Majesty" were so clever. It was exactly what His Excellency was thinking at the moment, and it sounded full of implications. Jia Yutsuan, who was frightened at the slightest sound, was shocked when he heard that. He hurriedly said, "I wouldn't dare." Jia Sherdao nodded with satisfaction. "That's good. His Excellency is really a good man." He waved his hand. "Okay, people of the Wangs, go home and stay at home. Don't wander around and don't cause any trouble. Whether it's the innocence of Rongwa Mansion or the whereabouts of Wang Wangxing, I'll find out the truth and convince you wholeheartedly." After that, the imperial envoy said to His Excellency, "Master Jia, you should go back too. After you go back, think about it carefully and seriously. When the time comes to interrogate this guy, I'll send someone to invite you." Jia Yutsuan nodded subconsciously and then looked at the unconscious 7th Master Wang. Then "I'll detain him in Ningwa Mansion." Jia Sherdao looked at His Excellency and said meaningfully, "Why? Do you want to take him back to the prison?" Jia Yutsuan shivered and shook his head hard. "Are you kidding? This guy is in my hands. If anything happens to him, who am I going to cry to?" The prefect, full of worries, went back with a melancholy face. He must have a lot on his mind. The people of the Wangs left 7th Master Wang and also left gloomily. They looked like they had lost a battle. Well, they had lost a great battle. Rongwa Manor had resolved the crisis and defended their home. With a wave of her hand, third young lady rewarded all the servants who had stepped forward bravely today. The servants left in high spirits, leaving only Tan Shun and Shue Bao Chai. They bowed and thanked Jia Su and his son. Jia Su waved his hand and said, Rongwa Mansion and Ningwa Mansion are one family. You don't have to thank me. Tan Shun, guard the mansion well. Men will do the fighting. He pondered for a moment and said, Today's incident is very strange. The Wangs won't let it go. I have to plan carefully. I'll go back now. I'll leave some guards in Rongwa Mansion. You don't have to worry. Just take good care of the old man. Imperial Envoy, please. Jia Sherdao, who was twitching from showing off just now, was now like a good boy. After answering, he nodded slightly to Shue Bao Chai and Tan Shun and left with his father. Tan Shun watched the two leave and said, Cousin Sherdao is very afraid of Uncle. Even though he's the Imperial Envoy, he was so powerful just now. When he saw Father, he was like a rabbit seeing a tiger. Shue Bao Chai frowned and looked at Jia Su's back without saying anything. She felt that her uncle's attitude seemed to have changed slightly compared to before. With the tied-up 7th Master Wang, the group returned to Ningwa Mansion. In the hall where Jia Su received guests, 7th Master Wang was thrown aside. The guards left, and the people around all left. Only Duke Ning and the new Imperial Envoy stayed in the hall. The father and son looked at each other. Jia Sherdao had a bad feeling and said carefully, Father, before he finished, the wind whistled. Jia Su's face was gloomy as he slapped him. Chapter 782. The wind howled, and a slap came. Just as Jia Sherdao was about to be loved by his father again, a white shadow flashed. Sun Lang dashed out from the side and grabbed Jia Su's elbow. Duke Ning could not help but take 3 steps back. Jia Sherdao shouted, Brother! Sun Lang stood in front of O'Dowdu and smiled. Uncle, don't be angry. Jia Su steadied himself and calmed down. He felt that his inner qi was full and his true qi was flowing smoothly. There was no soreness in his limbs, and his body could not be any better. However, just now he was pushed back 3 steps by someone's elbow. He could not exert any strength at all. It seemed that no matter how hard he tried, he could not stop "I will take 3 steps back" from happening. He looked at Sun Lang with fear in his heart. This kid's kung fu was so high that it was strange. Yes, it was fear. Once the seed of suspicion was planted in a wise man's heart, it was very difficult to remove it. The person in front of him might not be his nephew, but an imposter. Then why did he come to Jinling? What was his motive? What was his purpose? What did he want? As soon as this thought popped up in Jia Su's mind, he quickly extinguished it and used his anger to cover it up. The other party was not only highly skilled in martial arts, but also extremely intelligent. If he were to act up, no one in Jinling would be able to stop him. Therefore, he snorted and looked at Sun Lang angrily. You are getting bolder and bolder, Sun Lang said with a baffled look. Uncle, what are you talking about? We are rebels. We even have to fight against the Emperor. Is it strange that we just engraved a gold plate and wrote an imperial edict? Jia Su almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He just remembered that when he met Sun Lang for the first time, they had a heart-to-heart talk. After considering all the causes and effects, he came to the conclusion that the Jia family had no way out and that the Emperor would definitely eliminate them. Therefore, he decided to let go and fully support his nephew to fight against the Emperor. Theoretically speaking, from then on, Jia Su was also a member of the rebels. Engraving a gold plate was not a big deal, but all of this was based on the fact that they were blood relatives. They had the same blood flowing in their veins and were born in the same family. Their fates were bound together by blood. But if you were AF Asterisk King fake, why would I even bother with you? Wait, could it be that this was his goal? He had originally wanted to retreat in order to advance. He wanted to drag the Jia family down with him and tie them to his war chariot. Was that why he had instigated Jia Sherdao to pretend to be an imperial envoy? Jia Su's son ran in his heart and said in an unfriendly tone, Even so, this method is too extreme. It directly pushed the situation to the point of no return. Why did you do this? If it's just the Wang clan come and pick a fight, we have plenty of ways to resolve the situation. Is there a need to resort to such a method? At first, Sun Lang felt strange. His uncle was a smart man. How could he get angry for no reason? After hearing this, he realized that his uncle didn't know about Madame Ma. He sighed and said slowly, "Uncle, you don't know this, but when I was returning home with Big Sister Bao and the others, we happened to encounter something." Jia Su said coldly, "What is it?" Sun Lang said concisely, "We met Madame Ma and Mother Wang of the Rongwa Manor. They wanted to kidnap Qing Wen and interrogate her about Wang Wangxing. Obviously, they can't get away from the Wang clan." Duke Ning said, "Where are these two thieves?" Sun Lang said indifferently, "I cut him into pieces and chopped him into minced meat." "Why are you angry?" "Because they accidentally let it slip." Speaking of this, Sun Lang paused. He was thinking about how to tell this to Jia Su. "There were many reasons why I ran away from home when I was young. But the more important direct reason was that I accidentally overheard something. I overheard something from Mother Wang." His tone was very calm. "And just now, Mother Wang said that it was not an accident. It was deliberate. In other words, it was a conspiracy planned by someone." Even though Jia Su was already wary of Sun Lang, he was still shocked when he heard this. He immediately asked, "What happened?" "I didn't get anything out of her. Mother Wang was just a rough old woman. She didn't know the inside story. When I asked Madame Ma, Sun Lang said she committed suicide. I couldn't stop her because she was no longer human. Her soul was almost leaning towards the weapon spirit. She committed suicide by annihilation. I couldn't stop her in time, and she died. What's worse is that she reported my location to her master." Jiasu looked at Sun Lang. His eyes flickered. No one knew what he was thinking. "I must get to the bottom of this matter, but not now." Sun Lang said, "Since our whereabouts have been exposed, we are already one step behind. If we want to turn the situation around, we have to do something extraordinary. Let Shi Dao pretend to be an imperial envoy. Not only can we deal with the Wang family's coercion, but we can also use the royal family's power to stir up trouble in Jinling and force out the mastermind." Since Jia Su was Jia Shidao's father, Sun Lang had to patiently explain. "Kill several birds with one stone." Jia Su snorted. "But if we are investigated for pretending to be an imperial envoy," Sun Lang said lightly, "we can't investigate. If I say he is an imperial envoy, the emperor will have to admit it." Duke Ning's expression was still very gloomy. Although he didn't say anything, in his heart, he didn't believe it. Since the seed of suspicion had been planted in his heart, since he already suspected that the other party's blood was not of the Jia family's bloodline, why should he believe his promise and friendship? Sun Lang said, "I know Uncle is uncomfortable. After all, this is your son. Now that he is on the front line, there are hidden risks. You must be worried, but he has grown up and will have to be independent sooner or later." Jia Su snorted coldly. Jia Shidao said subconsciously, "Father, he won't be in danger." Sun Lang waved his hand to stop Jia Shidao and continued to say to Jia Su, "He is willing to do this because he trusts me. He trusts that I can protect him. I won't betray this trust." Jia Su's mind raced. Now that things had come to this, it was useless to say anything more. If he continued to investigate, it would be easy to reveal flaws and make this kid suspicious. He sighed. "Fine, I hope so." Sun Lang nodded. "Then it's fine. Don't blame him." "Okay, Jia Shidao did well today. Not only did we defeat the Wangs, but we also gained something new. For example, this guy," he pointed at the fainted 7th Master Wang and said in a relaxed tone, "Together with Wang Shan, we have 2 core members of the Wang family in our hands. Piecing together what they know, we can restore a lot of inside stories and help us solve the puzzle of the Wang family. Wang Ren, Wang Xing, and even Wang Shifeng. They must be guarding some secret." Sun Lang looked at Jia Su. "Uncle, what about Wang Shan?" Now, it was Jia Su's turn to be embarrassed. He had been so angry just now, and now he was fine. He couldn't even keep an eye on one person. And Wang Zishan, he felt gloomy again. Sun Lang frowned. "What's wrong?" Jia Su sighed. "He's dead. He committed suicide." Sun Lang nodded when he heard that. He wasn't too surprised. It seems that the Wang family has also been greatly corrupted. "I forgot about this before," He came to seventh Master Wang, squatted down, and patted him a few times. The seven luminaries' sword saint won't fall for the same trick twice. After adding insurance, he stood up, turned around, and asked Jia Su, "When did he die? Did he say anything before he died? How'd he die?" Jia Su's heart pounded wildly. He definitely could not tell the truth, but lying was also a problem. A lie needed more lies to complete, so he could not increase the cost and precision of lying. Fortunately, he had already thought of a way to fool him. He answered, "In front of me, he also committed suicide in a way that I couldn't understand. After he woke up, he said that he wanted to see me. After I went, he talked to me for a long time. He asked me who had knocked him out, and then he said something about fate. After that, he committed suicide. He seemed to be afraid, but also felt relieved. He said that they had sold their souls to evil spirits. Jia Su told him the truth, but he hid the biggest secret." After hearing this, Sun Lang pondered for a moment, grabbed seventh Master Wang, and said, "Let's go and see the scene." Jia Su nodded. "Okay." The three of them came to the dark prison and walked into the cold, underground prison. Sun Lang handed seventh Master Wang to Jia Sherdao and walked straight in. Jia Su followed. Wang Zishan's body was inside. He had died not long ago and was tied up tightly with chains and ropes. Even so, he still had a way to commit suicide. Sun Lang waved his hand, and the chains and ropes broke. Wang Zishan's body fell to the ground. He squatted down and pressed his hand on the body. Jia Su was waiting not far away. He did not want to get too close, because he had a guilty conscience and would easily expose himself. "Did you find anything?" "His meridians are intact. He didn't commit suicide by attacking his heart meridian with internal force. There are no signs of poisoning, and there are no wounds on his body," Sun Lang said as he checked. "It's similar to Madame Ma's situation. Let me take a look." The eyes were the window to the soul. If there were wounds on the soul, it would sometimes be reflected in the eyes. Sun Lang opened Wang Zishan's eyelids and saw the dim and lifeless eyeballs. The power of the Holy Sword was injected. This was the original power of all Imperial Army, and it would cause resonance with the power of the same origin. Weak light blue spots appeared in Wang Zishan's eyeballs. Sun Lang smiled, but the next moment, the smile froze. After the blue light spots were activated by resonance, there was some change. The weak blue light moved in the eyeballs, arranged, and formed very thin words. It was very small and weak, but with Sun Lang's eyesight, everything was clear. The blue light listed 4 small words in the white of the eyeballs. "He knows Dao has." Chapter 783. The blue light spots converged to form small words. He knew it. Who knew? Behind him, Jia Su, 10 steps away. What did he know? Something he didn't want him to know. Something he didn't want him to know. Sun Lang slowly closed his eyes. Jia Su's attitude, Jia Su's expression, his words, his inexplicable anger, his abnormal behavior, all the inexplicable changes in his attitude, all the inexplicable actions, all the inexplicable changes in his attitude, all the inexplicable actions. It turned out that he was not worried about his son. Everything had an explanation. More importantly, he was lying. He knew, but he hid it and lied to me that he didn't hear anything. It seemed that he was already suspicious and on guard. What did he want to do? What was he thinking? What was he going to do? The other party was a terrifying wise man. Not only was he meticulous, but he didn't have any taboos. He didn't have any psychological burden in doing anything. Such an opponent was terrifying and had to be treated seriously. You couldn't let your guard down because you couldn't predict what he would do. He would definitely do something. He wasn't Jia Sherdao, Lin Daiyu, or Shui Baochai. He didn't have any friendship with me. He trusted me and cooperated with me only because he thought I was his nephew, his blood relative. But I wasn't. But if he knew I wasn't, would he still help me at all costs? Would he still trust me? No, he wouldn't. Not only that, he would suspect me and my motives because I'm Sun Lang, because I'm not Jiaying. I'm a fake. I'm the person who has taken over his nephew's name and life. If such a person were to casually approach Rongwum Manor, anyone would be on guard, right? Sun Lang suddenly opened his eyes. A strong, murderous aura filled his eyes. The enemy was 10 steps behind him. If he attacked, Jiasu wouldn't even have time to think. But Jia Shidao's face appeared in his mind. At this moment, Jiasu asked, "Did you find anything?" Duke Ning tried to calm his voice, but his body was tense. His genuine qi and internal breath were circulating at full speed, ready to deal with the impact. Jiasu thought, "Is this brat suspicious? That shouldn't be the case. I've already checked Wang Zishan's corpse. There was nothing strange. There was no letter or mark. Wang Zishan had no chance to leave anything behind. But even so, because of the wariness in his heart, he still couldn't act as if nothing had happened. Even though Jiasu was trying his best to control his heartbeat, he couldn't help but feel nervous. That brat's martial arts are extremely powerful in the Black Prison. If he were to make a move, I wouldn't stand chance. Damn it, he was irritated by his inability to control the situation. As for Sun Lang, a cold smile appeared at the corner of Sun Lang's mouth. His heart was cold, exposed, completely exposed. Jiasu's heartbeat quickened slightly. His breathing became heavier, and even the sound of his muscles tensing up. Even the fluctuation of his true qi accelerated. These voices were almost inaudible, but if Sun Lang paid close attention, nothing could escape his ears and senses. Obviously, Jiasu was very nervous when he said this, and he had subconsciously made defensive preparations. Then, what was he nervous about? What was he on guard about? What was he afraid of? 10 steps away, the fake nephew and the real uncle could not see each other's expression. They were both guessing each other's thoughts because of the same secret. Sun Lang put his hand on Wang Zishan's face. The 7 planets' spiritual energy surged in, and the blue light dots that formed the text immediately disappeared. This was a good plan to drive a wedge between them. The sneer on his face and the murderous look in his eyes had disappeared without a trace. He replied in a normal tone, "As I expected, his soul has been annihilated. The way he died is basically the same as Madame Ma's." Combined with Wang Zishan's confession, he said that they sold their souls to demons. This is indeed how demons die. Sun Lang stood up and clapped his hands. That is to say, the Wang family and Madame Ma probably have the same master. This person is my enemy. He is targeting me and the Rongwa residents. He instigated or lured the Wang family to cause trouble in the Rongwa residents. More importantly, Jiasu said, that person knows that Wang Zixing died in the Rongwa residence. That is to say, he must have something to do with Wang Zixing's death, or at least a major insider. Sun Lang turned around and met Jiasu's eyes. The two of them looked at each other for a moment and smiled at the same time. At least on the surface, this pair of relatives still maintained a harmonious and appreciative relationship. It was not only the relationship between uncle and nephew, but also the mutual appreciation between two wise men. Their way of thinking and their principles of doing things were similar, and that was, if necessary, they would do anything without restraint. But now, they had different thoughts in their hearts. Sun Lang nodded. If that's the case, the target for the next phase is very clear. Jiasu asked their master, "You already know who it is?" Sun Lang said, "I already knew, but now I have some doubts because I found a few unusual things. But it's okay. I've already made the necessary arrangements." Jiasu said calmly, "Is it the prefect of Jinling, Jia Yutsun?" Sun Lang smiled. "Uncle is wise. Damn it. Now that Jiasu is in trouble, I have to adjust many of my arrangements. Damn it. No, I have to think of a way to solve this problem first." With that in mind, Sun Lang said, "Other than Jia Yutsun, 7th Master Wang is also a pleasant surprise. He is the leader of the Wang family's troublemaking group this time. He was also very decisive in committing suicide. I'm afraid that, like Wang Zishan, he is also a member of the group that sold their souls to demons. Therefore, the information in his heart will be our breakthrough." Jiasu nodded, but his heart was palpitating slightly. Wang Zishan's words had already turned the situation into what it was now. If 7th Master Wang had also been told in advance, what should he do when the time came? For example, in front of the two of them, He would say something like he is not Jia-ing, then there would be no way to turn the situation around. Just as he was worrying, Sun Lang said loudly, "Sherdao, bring him here." Jia Sherdao's answer came from afar. His younger brother quickly walked over with the tied-up seventh Master Wang. He first stole a glance at his father, and when he passed by his father, he quickened his pace and almost jogged to his elder brother's side. This scene made Jia Su's eyes twitch slightly. Damn it, what kind of magic potion did this stupid bastard get fed? Combined with his son's strange behavior and inexplicable attitude before, plus the terrible secret revealed by Wang Zishan, Jia Sherdao could easily infer that his son probably knew about this matter. This made him angry and jealous. Son of a B asterisk TCH, that's a F asterisk king outsider. I'm your real father. Obviously, in Jia Su's eyes, Jia Sherdao was a silly son who had been fooled by the rascals when he was young. Jia Su, on the other hand, was a tired and worrisome old father. After all, what could be more annoying than a disobedient son in this world? Oh, yes, he did not have a son, and he did not have a wife to give birth to a son. In short, Jia Su sighed his heart. Sun Lang took over 7th Master Wang and put him on the rack that Wang Zishan had given up. When he was about to wake him up with an iron fist of justice, Jia Sherdao suddenly said, "Brother, don't you need to prepare something?" Sun Lang waved his hand and said, No, I don't like to use tools. At most, I'll use some small props to liven things up. I don't need to prepare anything. What? Do you want to bring a boar? Jia Sherdao said loudly. Why do you want to bring a boar? Sun Lang smiled meaningfully. Bad boy, you seem to have thought of it. No, Jia Sherdao said angrily. I'm not talking about that. I mean, brother, are you going to appear in front of him? Let's not talk about whether he can recognize you. You don't seem to want to kill him after questioning him. What if you have to go to trial with Jia Yutsuin in the future and he spouts nonsense in front of the court? Sun Lang was slightly dazed. Damn it, how could he forget about this? He glanced at Wang Zishan's body and laughed at himself in his heart. It seemed that this matter had made him so confused that he did not notice this detail. Shame, shame, shame. So he said, I almost forgot about this. Let's go find a set of clothes first and cover our faces. Yes, I've decided. I'm going to cosplay as Dark Tong Dawei. What's that? Jia Sherdao sighed. I have new clothes in my room. We have similar figures, so you should be able to wear them. Let's go and change. Sun Lang nodded happily and said to Jia Su, Uncle, I put a restriction on this guy. If I don't understand, he won't wake up. I'll go and change with Sherdao first. Please watch over him here and come back to interrogate him later. In this situation, this guy's life is very important. Please be careful. Jia Su's heartbeat sped up. He nodded as if nothing had happened. Leave it to me. Come back quickly. Sun Lang replied. Okay. Jia Sherdao still did not dare to look at his father. He said in a low voice that his son was leaving, and then he ran away with his head down. Sun Lang followed him with light steps. Before leaving the dungeon, he tilted his head slightly and gave a meaningful smile. Uncle, let me give you a multiple-choice question first. Jia Su's figure flickered under the light of the torch. Sun Lang's smile disappeared as he left the dungeon through the tunnel. Looking at Jia Sherdao in front of him, his expression became strange. If this matter is exposed, your father and I will become enemies. What will you do then? Jia Sherdao had no idea that he was about to fall into a new dilemma. He turned back and said, Brother, let's hurry up. Don't let father wait too long. Sigh, he's angry with me again today. Sun Lang nodded, but he sneered in his heart. He's waiting too long. Ha, I'm afraid your father can't wait for us to go back later. Chapter 784. The ban on Ningwa Mansion hadn't been lifted yet, so they didn't meet anyone along the way. Jia Sherdao brought Sun Lang all the way to the courtyard where he lived and tiptoed into the house. Jia Su was meticulous. He had arranged for the maids and servants who were supposed to stay in the house to take a break, in case they suddenly bumped into the young master and leaked the news. But now, this arrangement didn't mean anything because Jia Sherdao had made his second debut as a young imperial envoy. Not only that, But the way he beat up 7th Master Wang in Rongwa Mansion and claimed that the law of the king was the law of the royal family would spread out and become a model for treacherous officials. What a sad thing. Jia Sherdao pushed the door open and went to the bedroom. He opened the wardrobe and started rummaging. Sun Lang stood in the middle of the room, looking left and right. Normally, when he entered his cousin's room for the first time, he would be jumping up and down, looking for erotic novels and erotic pictures. But now, he really was in the mood. He walked to the study on the other side. Scrolls and copybooks were hung all over the walls, and there were stacks of books on the shelves. He flipped through them casually. They were divided into 2 parts, literature and martial arts. In the literature part, there were many miscellaneous books besides the teachings of sages. The classics of sages were the study of principles, and these miscellaneous books were mostly examples. This could reflect Jia Su's education ideas. He didn't want his son to become a stupid bookworm with a head full of principles, nor did he want him to become a shrewd, cold, and real villain who only cared about benefits. Instead, he wanted Jia Sherdao to find a balance between the two. He wanted Jia Sherdao to know what was the foundation and what was the practical means. He wanted to know what was important and what was important. He wanted to know what to give up and what to stick to. He wanted to be a gentleman who could survive in this world without losing himself. All of this was reflected in the copybooks on the walls. Most of them were words of advice and reminders. They were all written by Jia Su and contained a father's expectations. Sun Lang sighed inwardly. Jia Su didn't do anything wrong. It was just a normal person's reaction. He thought for a moment and said, Sherdao. Jia Sherdao found a few clothes from a wardrobe and stuck his head out. What's the matter? Sun Lang came out from the study room and said nonchalantly, How long do you plan to hide it from your father? Jia Sherdao was confused. What are you hiding? Sun Lang sighed. Of course it's because Jia Ying is dead. I'm actually a transmigrator. Jia Sherdao was shocked and said subconsciously, How can I let my father know about this? Sun Lang's heart sank, but he said, You want to hide it for a lifetime? Jia Sherdao nodded. Although it's not good to hide it from my father, sometimes it's not a bad thing to hide it with good intentions. Not only my father, but also Grandma. We have to hide it from her too. Are you going to tell Grandma about this? Tell her that the grandson she couldn't forget actually died 8 years ago? Sun Lang was at a loss for words. Jia Sherdao softened his tone and said softly, Although it's a little unfair to you, but Grandma has worked hard all her life. Let her be happy in the end. Sun Lang was silent and then changed the topic. Let's not talk about Madame Dowager for now. As for your father, the problem isn't whether we tell him or not. Think about it. What if the other party tries to drive a wedge between us? Find a way to tell your father my secret. If your father finds out that I'm an imposter and wants to fight with me, what should we do then? Jia Sherdao was shocked. He thought of that possibility almost immediately and screamed, With my father's temper, he'll definitely do something. Yes, you're right. Sun Lang spread his hands and said, So if this happens, what are you going to do? On one side is your father, and on the other side is me. Your father wants to set me up, and I can kill him with one punch. What are you going to do? Do you even need to ask? Jia Sherdao said firmly without thinking. Of course, I'll kneel on the ground and hug my father's leg with tears and beg him to listen to me explain the cause and effect of the matter. I'll use my body to block in front of him and beg you to stop hitting him. Sun Lang said with a subtle expression, Thank you for your hard work. Jia Sherdao sighed. What else can I do? Sun Lang pursed his lips and asked again, What if your father doesn't listen? After all, I don't have any friendship with him. Without the bond of blood, he definitely won't trust me. Maybe he'll be on guard against me and target me. After all, I'm the one who brought the Jia family into such a passive situation now. Jia Sherdao's expression changed slightly. Sun Lang continued, He might be neutral, or he might protect himself. Maybe he'll make a deal with the imperial court. Maybe he'll set me up. His brother's expression was getting worse and worse. Hearing this, he couldn't hold it in anymore. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he said fiercely, Then I'll have to go all the way. Sun Lang was shocked. You're going to kill him. Of course not. How is that possible? Jia Sherdao said loudly. If my father insists on doing things his own way and doesn't listen to us, then we'll have to take him down first. We'll find a secret room and ask him to stay there for a while. We'll tell the public that the master is sick and can't manage the affairs. I'll be in charge of Ningbo Mansion, and I can still provide assistance to you. Well, we can go all the way. We'll say that my father was assassinated and put the blame on the enemy. Sun Lang kept nodding. He didn't realize that this guy was a self-taught genius when it came to setting his father up. He was just about to put his father under house arrest, and here he was already thinking about excessive spending. But the next moment, Jia Sherdao showed his true colors. He smiled apologetically and said, "Of course, if this really happens and we really do it, you'll have to help me stop my father from beating me to death." Sun Lang nodded. Of course. If this really happens, you'll try your best to help me. I'll try my best to protect you afterward. This is called a gentleman's agreement. We've made a deal." Jia Sherdao didn't know what was going on. He nodded hard. "Yes, we've made a deal." Sun Lang smiled. He felt a little better. At the very least, this brother of his was on his side. But he didn't plan to reveal the truth to Jia Su directly. First of all, although Jia Su was already a major suspect, it wasn't completely confirmed. There was that line of words in Wang Zishan's eyes, but it might be a trick to sow discord. That was still unknown. If Jia Su really didn't know, and he took the initiative to expose the matter, it would be too awkward. Second of all, once the matter was exposed, the conflict would start directly. Even if Jia Su said that he didn't care about this matter and was still willing to work with Sun Lang and treat him as his nephew, Sun Lang wouldn't trust Jia Su anymore. Because a person's heart was unpredictable, he didn't know what Jia Su was thinking, so naturally, he didn't trust him. And Jia Su would definitely have a thorn in his heart. In the end, Jia Sherdao would still be in a dilemma. Third of all, this was a trick to sow discord. Since he knew that it was a trick to sow discord, there was no reason for him to take the bait. The more exquisite the other party's plan was, the more he couldn't follow their ideas. F***, wasn't it just playing dirty? Sun Lang made up his mind. Jia Sherdao took out a few sets of clothes. "Brother, which one do you want to wear?" "Dark fantasy. Black shirt, black pants, and black shoes. And a black mask." After transforming into the philosophical messenger of the Dark Planet, Sun Lang and Jia Sherdao returned the way they came. Along the way, his younger brother showed a subtle expression that he couldn't bear to look at. After all, he didn't understand the charm of philosophy. But Jia Su didn't seem to understand either. Under the flickering light of the fire, Big Uncle was shocked by Sun Lang's outfit. He saw a weirdly dressed idiot with an inexplicable aura walking out of the darkness. "Putting aside your black clothes, what's up with that hood? Couldn't you just cover your face?" Why was he wearing a mask that could only cover half his face? Why did it look so strange? Jia Sherdao was a bit embarrassed and said in a low voice, "Father, brother is sometimes a little strange." These words hit the most sensitive spot in Jia Su's heart. His eyes changed slightly, and he snorted. Sun Lang's skin was thick to the point that he didn't have the concept of losing face. After all, when a person's realm reached a certain level, even if he wore strange clothes and swaggered through the streets, he wouldn't feel that it was inappropriate, because his heart was strong enough and he was extremely confident, so he didn't care about other people's opinions. Except for those who called him a virgin, he would beat them up. He walked over with small steps with his head held high and his chest puffed out. He ran to Seventh Master Wang and patted him a few times, smiling playfully in his heart. Hey, this Jia Su could really hold it in. Nothing happened in the dark dungeon. Seventh Master Wang didn't take poison to commit suicide, nor did any masters break in to kidnap or silence him. In short, it was very quiet. With Jia Su here, nothing happened. Sun Lang smiled faintly. He had done something to his Seventh Master Wang before. It wasn't just because of Wang Zishan's lesson. After he knocked Seventh Master Wang out, he realized that this guy would be a breakthrough. Since he was a breakthrough, there was value in silencing him. Thus, Sun Lang buried some sword chi in Seventh Master Wang's body. This sword chi had some small functions. For example, When 7th Master Wang's life was in danger, the sword chi would automatically counterattack. In the worst case, it would seep into the murderer's body and become a signal. Hey, Jiasu could really hold it in. Since Wang Zishan could reveal a big secret, 7th Master Wang could also reveal it. With Jiasu's intelligence, it was impossible for him to not think of this. He could actually hold it in. Sun Lang rubbed his hands and smiled. Okay, let's start now. He patted 7th Master Wang's face a few times. Hey. Jiasu looked at 7th Master Wang coldly and became nervous. He hated this feeling. He hated the feeling that things were out of his control. And what are you planning to do? Sun Lang's inner force seeped into 7th Master Wang's body, and he slowly woke up. He opened his eyes in a daze, and what he saw was an idiot wearing a half-face mask that exuded a subtle aura. He was shocked. Who are you? Chapter 785. To be honest, one could imagine how 7th Master Wang Ye felt at this moment. His memory stopped at the moment before he committed suicide. At that time, the situation had reversed, and the Wang family was in a desperate situation. He had to make a choice. Death was not terrible. At least for him, it was a relief. He remembered that he had taken out a dagger and stabbed himself in the heart. He had found the position very accurately. Even a god would not be able to save him once the dagger was cut. In this way, he would take all the blame and die. No matter how arrogant and vicious that little bastard Jia Sherdao was, he would not be able to find any reason to continue to make things difficult for the Wang family. He didn't remember anything after that. There was no pain, and he immediately lost consciousness. Probably because he had found the position so accurately, he had immediately died with one stab. That was why he did not feel any pain or torture. Not a bad result, he thought in a daze. But the next moment, he found the key to the problem. How can I still think? How can I still think about things? Where am I? The underworld. These 4 words naturally came to his mind. After all, this was the Empire. Technology was not very advanced, and society was not very progressive. Moreover, there was the supernatural magical power of the Imperial Army, and there were even King demons and ghosts. It was normal for people to believe in the cycle of life and death. Therefore, 7th Master Wang Ye felt that he should have come to the underworld. Someone was patting his face. Wake up, Half-Life 3 is on sale. Such strange words were said. 7th Master Wang Ye slowly opened his heavy eyelids. He was a little blinded by the light of the torch. When he was in focus and his pupils adapted to the light, he saw the appearance of the person in front of him clearly. Under the flickering light of the fire, the other party's smile was so wild, and his dressing was so stupid. He said in horror, "Who are you?" The guy with a half-mask, revealing his nose and mouth, quickly stepped back and turned his body sideways. His hands were hanging by his legs, his head was slightly lowered, and his gaze was contemptuous from bottom to top. In a very provocative and annoying posture, he said in a loud and rhythmic voice, F***CKU. Why did this person have to pose when he introduced himself? However, this was not surprising. When the forest was big, there were all kinds of birds. This Jianghu was a Jianghu of many people. Among them, there was no lack of mentally retarded people who had listened to too many novels and wanted to imitate the actions of the characters in the novels. Before introducing themselves, they would pull out their weapons, jump up, or lie down on the ground. In short, they would strike a pose that they thought was super handsome and then loudly shout out their domineering name without caring about how awkward it was for others. It was probably referring to this kind of idiot. 7th Master Wang made up his mind about Falconer. Wait, does that mean I'm not dead yet? He was probably still alive, he thought. If Oxhead and Horseface of the underworld had become like this, the 3 realms would definitely be in chaos. Then he looked past Fosiu and around him. He was in a dark cell. He was tied to the rack by chains and ropes. He saw 2 people standing not far away. Their expressions were rather strange. He knew these 2 people. 7th Master Wang's body suddenly tensed up. He struggled hard, but he was tightly bound. His true chi was also sealed. He could not move at all. However, This did not stop him from cursing angrily. Jiasu, Jia Sherdao, you father and son colluding together. You actually used tricks to knock me out, detain me here, and set up a torture chamber. Are you going to torture me? How dare you humiliate me like this? What Ningwa mansion? Jiasu and his son were scolded badly. Both of them had strange expressions on their faces. Damn it, we didn't do anything you said. Jiasu was silent for a moment. He took the blame without batting an eyelid. He flicked his sleeves and said coldly, only the Wangs are allowed to do this, and we are not allowed to do the same? Seventh Master Wang did not care about this. He shouted, who started this? Not only did you harm my brother, but you also want to kill the Wangs. Are you not allowing us to fight back? Jiasu frowned. Prince Xing's matter has nothing to do with the Jia mansion. Seventh Master Wang suddenly sneered. He gritted his teeth and said, the walls have no ears here. Who are you acting for? Jianingwa, tell me honestly, do you really know nothing about my brother's matter? Jiasu was a cautious person. Regardless of whether the walls had ears or not, he would not give in. Ridiculous. I don't know where you heard those rumors from. Hey, Wang Qi, the walls have no ears here. You don't have to tell me your lies. Who instigated you to come to Ronghua Mansion to cause trouble? When Seventh Master Wanya heard this, his body trembled slightly, and his eyes were filled with fear. This core member of the Wangs closed his eyes and said, now that things have come to this, you can do whatever you want to me. Don't even think about getting a word out of me. Jiasu was not surprised. He took 2 steps forward and advised patiently. With the undercurrent in the Jia mansion, the Wangs must be having a hard time. If I'm not wrong, the Wangs must be in a precarious situation. The 4 major families are said to be of the same breadth and branch. When something happens, you should support each other and help each other. Before he finished, Seventh Master Wang sneered. Jianingwa, do you believe the bullshit you're talking about? Jiasu choked on his words. He had been so frustrated by Sun Lang's matter that he couldn't take it anymore. If your Wang clan goes on like this, you won't be far from death. I advise you to tell us the truth so that we can give you some advice and see if there's any way to resolve this matter. Seventh Master Wang looked at him contemptuously. A solution? With just you? Jiasu said indifferently. Looks like you still don't understand your situation. You're a prisoner. Your life is in our hands. If you don't want to suffer, you better know your place. Seventh Master Wang laughed. I'm not even afraid of death. What's there to be afraid of? Sun Lang, who had been in the background, was leaning against the wall. He said nonchalantly, roast cock? Eat shit? Get F***ed by strong men? If you're not afraid, we'll go find a male pig. Seventh Master Wang could not help but shiver. Even though the Wangs were one of the 4 major families in Jinling and had done many evil deeds in the dark, this kind of punishment was unimaginable. He was furious as he glared at Jiasu. The Ningwa mansion is too vicious. How can you do such evil deeds? You're so sinful that even heaven and earth will not tolerate it. Mother Kerr. He's from the Ningwa mansion. No, our Jia family doesn't have such a pervert. Jiasu took the blame again. He cursed in his heart, but he could not refute it. He said, we're not good people, so don't laugh at us. You have to know that this person is the most twisted person in Jinling and even the Summer State. He has all kinds of weird habits that ordinary people can't understand. He likes to serve a noble master like you the most. Sun Lang felt something was wrong. Oh, he's talking about me in a roundabout way? Who is he? In the past, he was invincible in the 6 armies. Whether it was talking or playing tricks, he was invincible. This kind of battle was a piece of cake for him. He heard the marshal say in a flattering tone, thanks to Master's appreciation, this lowly one has a bowl of rice to eat. Every few days, I still have the chance to do this kind of big work. Today, this lowly one will work hard and make Master even happier this time. Seventh Master Wang was even more frightened when he heard this, but his hatred was still firmly nailed to Jiasu. He stared at Duke Ning and said angrily, so you have this kind of taste. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. This is your nature, so you can find such a person to satisfy your twisted and dark, shameful desires. Mother of Kerr, if you like it so much, why don't you try it yourself? Sun Lang added with a smile. His advantage was that his face was covered. Anyway, no one could recognize him. Realizing this, Sun Lang became more unscrupulous. He smiled and bowed. Master Wang, you don't know, but Duke Ninghua already has this idea in his heart. I think although Jia Su was a wise man, he had his own specialization. In this aspect, he didn't even have the qualifications to carry Sun Lang's shoes. Furthermore, with his son beside him, he couldn't take it anymore and immediately glared at Sun Lang. Shut up. You're talking too much. However, Seventh Master Wang had already misunderstood. The misunderstanding was very deep. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Jia Su was infuriated by Sun Lang's stare. He didn't expect Sun Lang to be so cunning and vengeful. Sun Lang wanted to retaliate with 10 times the strength after being stabbed, and now he was embarrassed. Especially since Jia Sherdao had been there the whole time, his father's authority had been greatly reduced. He was even angrier and shouted, "Are you going to tell me or not?" Seventh Master Wang's resistance had one more reason. He wanted to say no to the pervert. Don't even think about it, Jia Su said gloomily. Then I'll have to teach you a lesson. After all, Seventh Master Wang was made of flesh and blood, and as a human, he could still feel fear. At this time, he had automatically imagined a lot of things. Hearing this, he looked at Sun Lang in fear and said in a panic, "I'm warning you. You'd better kill me. If I don't die, I'll definitely expose all of your scandals." Mother asterisk Kerr. At this time, the magical Sun Lang came up with a new plan. Master, don't panic. Take the medicine you bought with a lot of money and feed it to Master Wang. Then get a few dozen strong men to do it for 3 days and 3 nights. He'll basically become stupid, and he'll say whatever we want him to say, Seventh Master Wang screamed in despair. Jia Su, you bastard. Oh, Mother asterisk Kerr, why is it me again? Jia Su was furious. He pointed at the corner and said coldly, Wang, do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Look at who that is. Seventh Master Wang looked in the direction he was pointing and saw something in the corner. A corpse was lying on its back, and its face was stiff. Prince Shan. The expression on his face froze. It was as if he was crying, laughing, and envious. There was no roar, no accusation, no scolding. After a moment of silence, he said calmly, How did he die? Jia Su said coldly, Of course he committed suicide, right? Seventh Master Wang looked up at Jia Su and said calmly, I have something to tell you. Only you. Let your son go out with Fosiu. Chapter 786. Seventh Master Wang's attitude was very firm. He would rather die than say anything. Even when he was threatened, he gritted his teeth and refused to let go. After all, he was already prepared to die when he was at Rongwa Mansion. But after seeing Prince Shan's body, his attitude changed quickly. It was so fast that it caught him off guard. This change in attitude shouldn't be due to fear, because he wasn't afraid of death at all. It was impossible for him to compromise out of fear after seeing his brother's body, because there was no fear on his face. He said, I have something to tell you, and only you. In other words, he wanted all the irrelevant people to leave. Things seemed to have taken a turn for the better, and Jia Sherdao was very happy. As for the avoidance of irrelevant people, he didn't think it was a big deal at all. After all, it should be very important news. Wang Qi didn't know his brother's identity, so naturally, he would only tell his father. But what did it matter? He didn't know his elder brother's identity, but his father knew. After his father heard it, he could immediately pass it on to his elder brother, and his elder brother could tell me. This was no different from telling everyone. It was just a little more troublesome. That was what Jia Sherdao thought. After all, he was kept in the dark. He didn't know that the 2 men closest to him in this world were wary and even hostile to each other. He was the only one who was kept in the dark. After hearing this, Sun Lang and Jia Su's hearts skipped a beat. They shouted in their hearts at the same time. It's here. Wang Zishan had been told the important news in advance and had a special mission. Since Wang Zishan was like this, Seventh Master Wang Ye might have a similar mission. No, from the looks of it now, that was for sure. It was here. Sun Lang sneered silently in his heart. There was a second round? This had been planned for a long time. Jiasu's heart raced. Sun Lang only sneered in his heart, but he couldn't help but feel nervous. If this was also the arrangement of the mastermind behind the scenes, then it was easy to imagine what the other party would say. But fortunately, the worst thing didn't happen. At least the other party knew that he was the only one who heard it. It was better than blindly shouting, "Prince, you've delivered my kind words, right? Your nephew is a fake. Let's discuss how to deal with him," or something along the lines of death. He glanced at Sun Lang without batting an eyelid and gave him a meaningful look. If that was the case, then it was fine. This brat still hasn't realized that he's been exposed. He's still putting on an act. Just now, he even joked with me so casually. This means that he's still in the act and treats me as his uncle. So, calm down, don't reveal any flaws. This was a very small matter. Even if I was the only one who heard it, I could pass it on to him later. I was his uncle, and I was on the same boat as him. He trusted me, and he wouldn't suspect me. This was a very small matter. That was it. Sun Lang nodded slightly. He planned to send me away, but that was normal. This was a completely reasonable choice. I was only acting as an interrogator. There was no reason for me to stay. He could reasonably give me orders, and I didn't have to stay because we were family. He was my uncle, and I trusted him. This was a small matter. After he heard it, he could pass it on to me later. This was a small matter. It should have been like this. But Wang Zishan had already revealed a secret to him, and he was already suspicious. What could Wang Qi say to him? He didn't know, but he could foresee that if it was a sensitive topic, Jiasu would definitely hide something. Sun Lang's mind raced, and he thought of many things in an instant. How should he deal with this situation? The simplest way was to take off her mask and say that she was Jia Ying. As the successor of the Rongwa mansion and the former marshal of the imperial court, she could ask the seventh master in this way, and she would be able to stay. But then what? Wang Qi's move was nothing more than a mastermind's second round of sowing discord. The most disgusting part of this plan was that it could change unpredictably. No matter how it changed, it would achieve its goal. It was simple to reveal his identity and stay, but would he be able to obtain useful information? Not necessarily. If it was really related to the secret of Jia Ying's identity, then there would be no turning back between him and Jiasu. Moreover, who could guarantee that the information Wang Qi passed on would be useful? It might be an insignificant matter that would cause him to reveal his identity. Not only that, it would also arouse Jiasu's suspicion. You should have left first, and I could have passed it on to you after I heard it. Why did you have to reveal your identity and stay here to listen to it personally? What do you mean? You don't trust me? Why do you suspect me? Damn it, you must know that I know about it. Sowing discord. Regardless of whether it was real or fake, it would achieve its goal. Then there was no other way. He could only leave first. But, until now, Sun Lang still couldn't figure out what was going on. What was the other party trying to do? Whether it was sowing discord or framing the Rongwa mansion, what was their goal? Didn't they know that I could flip the table whenever I was unhappy? Sun Lang pondered. No matter what, let's leave it at that. Thus, meeting Jiasu's gaze, Sun Lang nodded slightly. Jiasu breathed a sigh of relief. In his eyes, Sun Lang nodded without any hesitation. This meant that he was indeed kept in the dark. That was good. He said, "Then, you two can leave first." Jia Sherdao and Sun Lang bowed at the same time. Yes. Jia Sherdao habitually waited for Sun Lang to go first, but when he saw his brother waiting with his head lowered, he quickly reacted and said, "Let's go." Thus, Sun Lang followed Jia Sherdao and left. Watching the two of them leave, Jiasu saw what had just happened. In terms of meticulousness and intelligence, Sun Lang was obviously much better than Jia Sherdao, not to mention martial arts and military strategy. Why wasn't such an unparalleled person from the Jia family? Then who was he? However, he vaguely felt that at this point, he might not be far from the truth. Jia Sherdao and Sun Lang left the dark dungeon through the passage. Jia Sherdao's stern face finally relaxed. He chuckled and pointed at Sun Lang. "Brother, you really pissed Dad off just now. Haha, Dad's reputation was almost ruined by you. He was talking about how Sun Lang and Jia Su had hurt each other in the dark dungeon just now. As someone who had been by his brother's side during the war, Jia Sherdao had long expected Sun Lang's combat power and ability to cause trouble. In this regard, his father couldn't catch up with his brother, so it was reasonable that he was at a disadvantage. However, as he spoke, he felt strange. Speaking of which, it's strange. Why did Dad joke about you? He's not the kind of person who likes to show off. Sun Lang sneered inwardly. Of course, his mentality had changed. Once there was a seed of suspicion, no matter how much he restrained himself, he would involuntarily show hostility. This was the so-called one's body is upright. However, he said something else. It seems that eldest uncle's anger hasn't subsided yet. Jia Sherdao shook his head and turned to look at the entrance of the dark dungeon. What's so mysterious that he has to only tell Dad? I hope it's something good, Sun Lang smiled. Only for Jia Su to hear? It was indeed a good idea. The second round of sowing discord would make people more distant and wary. Gradually, trust would disappear, and Jia Su and I would gradually drift apart with our own thoughts. Too Su. Do you think I can't do anything if you use this method to lure me away? The dark dungeon was built in the ground, made of bricks and stones. It was of the earth and metal element, so sound would be reflected. Sun Lang stood in front of the dark dungeon, calling the earth spirit and the metal spirit. He focused his hearing and divine sense, isolating the noise and deepening his senses. Thus, his ears and eyes slowly extended, until he heard Jia Su's calm voice in the dark dungeon. What do you want to tell me? Why do you have to tell me alone? Why are you so mysterious? Duke Ning said lightly. Where do we start? Is it the Wang family's predicament or Wang Wangxing's secret? Hearing this, Sun Lang praised in his heart. Smart people should be like this. No matter what, they should keep their mouths shut. Even if there were no outsiders around, they should not say anything that they should not say. The next moment, Seventh Master Wang answered. He said, No, I don't plan to tell you this. I was told in advance that if Wang Wangxing commits suicide, please dismiss the unrelated people. Jia Su asked, Whose order? I can't say. It's meaningless even if I do. Seventh Master Wang's voice was filled with fatigue and powerlessness. Jia Su's voice wavered a little. All right, what message did that person ask you to pass? Seventh Master Wang answered, Nothing, it's a letter. There's a letter in the inner compartment of my belt. Open it and take a look. I don't know what's inside. Take note, the letter is made of a special material. Once it's opened, it will quickly combust. You'd better read it quickly. Hearing this, Sun Lang's confident expression froze. He took a deep breath and clenched his fist. As if it was an illusion, the ground within a radius of dozens of miles shook slightly. How could he have predicted such a thing? You even thought about this? All right, the wiser you are, the happier I'll be. I'll feel even more accomplished when I cut you into pieces. Sun Lang closed his eyes, waves surging in his heart. He dispelled the impulse to force his way in and read the letter. There wasn't much meaning to it, so he shouldn't act rashly. Jia Sherdao seemed to notice Sun Lang's emotional change. He whispered, What's wrong, brother? Sun Lang shook his head slightly and smiled. Nothing. Wait for your father to come out. The gloominess and murderous intent were all hidden under his smile. He was already very proficient in doing this. Chapter 787. Although Jia Su had already made arrangements to prevent eavesdropping, Sun Lang still listened attentively. Although he could not read the contents of the letter silently, he could hear what Jia Su said. He could extract information from the other party's words and determine if his uncle was lying. After a while, Jia Su spoke. He said coldly, Are you making fun of me? Seventh Master Wanya was confused. What do you mean? Jia Su said unhappily. There's not a single word in the letter. What do you want me to read? Seventh Master Wanya was stunned. How is that possible? Let me. Ouch. Then there was the sound of flames licking the letter. Just as he said, the letter was written with a special material. It burned as soon as it was read. Jia Su did not speak, but Seventh Master Wanya muttered, Not a single word? How is that possible? They told me solemnly to pass this letter to you. Jiasu asked who. Seventh Master Wangya said blankly. I can't say. Even if I do, I'll die. This kind of unforeseen event happened again. Sun Lang, who was still listening, fell in a deep thought. No words? What's going on? Is this part of the conspiracy, or a lie? Yes, a lie. Maybe a lie. Since they could predict that I would eavesdrop with my martial arts, they would remind me in the letter. For example, they would tell Jia Su that I was eavesdropping, so it's not impossible for him to tell such a lie. In the dungeon, Jia Su seemed to be angry. He grabbed Seventh Master Wangya and interrogated him. The sound of chains grinding could be heard. You can't say it? You really won't shed a tear until you see the coffin? Wang Run is dead. Wang Zixing is dead, and now Wang Zishan is dead. Maybe it'll be your turn soon. Are you going to wait for death? Seventh Master Wangya said agitatedly. Brother, Zixing really died in your hands. Bullshit. Jiasu could not hold it in anymore and punched Seventh Master Wangya. Wang Shifeng killed her brother and escaped, causing the Jia residents to fall into injustice. It's all your Wang family's doing. But you've implicated us again and again. Seventh Master Wang had been hit twice by Jia Sherdao before, and now he was hit by Jiasu as well. Although he was hit hard this time, he still yelled, "That bitch!" Jiasu shouted, "What did you say? What are you talking about? Take a guess, take a guess." Seventh Master Wang laughed like a madman. It's hopeless, hopeless. The Wang clan is hopeless, and so is your Jia clan. Sooner or later, they would all be finished. Jiasu, you don't have many good days ahead of you. Eat and drink as you should because someone has set their eyes on you. Jiasu spat. You lunatic. As the footsteps approached, Sun Lang turned his head to look. Soon, Jiasu walked out of the dungeon with a gloomy face, but his anger and irritation had mostly disappeared. As a wise man, he was very good at controlling his emotions. Sun Lang leaned against the wall and said as if nothing had happened, I vaguely heard quarreling and shouting. Uncle, what happened? What did this guy say? As he spoke, he observed the changes in Jiasu's expression. In fact, he was thinking about Jiasu's performance in the dungeon. Eldest uncle was very angry and irritable. If the letter was indeed empty, it was reasonable for him to explode in anger and grab Seventh Master Wang and ask him harshly. After all, it was very likely that he had received news from Wang Zishan that his nephew was a fake. Not only was he a fake, but he also seemed to have brought a lot of trouble to the Jia residents. In the eyes of Jiasu, this was indeed a bastard who brought trouble to the Jia residents using his nephew's face and name. Most importantly, as his uncle, he did not dare to expose him, which made him very angry. Therefore, when the enemy used Wang Zishan to send a message and expose the truth, Jiasu could not do anything even if he knew that it was a trick to sow discord. He could only wait and see. Even though he knew that the other party seemed to be harboring ill intentions, he couldn't help but faintly hope that the other party would give him a constructive suggestion so that he could consider it comprehensively and weigh the pros and cons. He wanted to see if there was any possibility of maneuverability so that the Jia residents could safely get through the current situation. After all, protecting the Jia clan was Jiasu's top priority. At this time, the second message he received was actually a blank letter. This was very awkward. It was blatantly announcing that he was trying to sow discord between the two of them. However, Jiasu could not say anything about it. This would undoubtedly deepen his negative emotions and make him lose control of his emotions. It would not be surprising if he beat Seventh Master Wang up. However, he was a wise man after all. After venting his anger on Seventh Master Wang, he had to think about how to explain it to him. First, he had to control his emotions and suppress his anger. At the very least, he could not make himself look too irritable. Otherwise, the perceptive and intelligent nephew Wang would notice the problem. For example, Uncle, why are you angry? A blank letter? That is indeed very angry, but why are you so angry? Isn't it just a prank? Why do you look so angry? Are you disappointed by the wordless letter? What were you expecting? Why did you expect it? Did Wang Zishan tell you something that made you look forward to this news? But why are you hiding it from me? Why don't you let me know? What is it that you don't want me to know? Oh, I understand. It must be that matter that has been exposed. Keek. It seems that I can only silence you or use the drug in your room and find a few strong men to make you stupid. That's right. You and your father can forget about escaping, and so on. Therefore, even though Jiasu knew that it was a blank letter, he had to swallow his anger and pretend that nothing had happened. He calmly told his nephew the truth with a confused and angry attitude, and he had to be careful not to expose his little secret. That was what Sun Lang was seeing now. First, Wang Qi seemed to be making fun of me. First, he said that someone asked him to bring a letter to me. He said that the letter would spontaneously combust after I read it. He asked me to finish reading it quickly. When I opened it, it was a blank piece of paper. What did he mean? Yes, that's the reaction. It's very normal and consistent with the previous emotional analysis. But on the other hand, what if it's all an act? That means my thoughts are all within the enemy's calculations. Maybe it's the mastermind's instructions, or maybe it's Jiasu's free play. He made such a normal reaction, but concealed the real truth. In other words, the letter actually has content, and it's very important content. Jiasu doesn't want me to know, and he thinks that it's difficult to make up a story, so he directly said that it's a blank letter. He even lied to Wang Qi to prevent me from finding him later. The possibility of that is not small. Sun Lang calmly calculated and pondered in his mind. The current situation is that I know he knows, but I don't know if he knows I know he knows. He probably wants to know if I know he knows. And did Schrodinger's letter tell him that I knew that he knew? Sun Lang was almost amused by this mess. Although his mind was filled with thoughts, his mouth did not slow down at all. He purposely said, "A blank letter? Why would it be a blank letter?" Jiasu said with annoyance, "I want to know too." Sun Lang sneered in his heart, but on the surface, he still maintained a relaxed look. He leaned against the wall and slowly said, "Let's analyze the situation at that time." Wang Qi refused to say anything at first, but after seeing Wang Zishan's body, he immediately gave in. He didn't seem to be scared, but a special event triggered a new conversation. Moreover, he pretended to be serious and only said it to you. Jiasu's expression was unnatural for a moment before he calmed down. However, none of this escaped Sun Lang's eyes. Sun Lang sneered inwardly and continued. In such a special and serious environment, the information Wang Qi said should be extremely important, but it wasn't. He was just a postman. It was a blank letter. This is very strange. He paced back and forth as if he was talking to himself. From what happened before, our enemy is hiding in the dark. He has ulterior motives and is meticulous in his work. He is a cunning and competent opponent. Such a person does everything for a purpose. Therefore, this wordless letter must contain a plot of the other parties. Before Jiasu could say anything, Jia Sherdao asked first, "What is it?" Sun Lang's expression became very meaningful. He tilted his head and smiled. So discord. Jiasu's pupils suddenly shrank. Jia Sherdao was shocked. So discord. Sun Lang nodded. After thinking about it, the only possibility left is to drive a wedge between us. Think about it. Such a serious matter, letting eldest uncle read it alone and not saying it out loud. It's just a letter that will spontaneously combust. In other words, the evidence has completely disappeared. It all depends on what eldest uncle says. Then the question is, if eldest uncle says that this is a letter without words, will I be suspicious? I would suspect that uncle is hiding something. Jia Sherdao's expression suddenly changed as he shouted, "Brother, father wouldn't do that." Sun Lang didn't look at Jiasu's expression. Instead, he said to Jia Sherdao, "Let me give you an example. Don't get agitated, but this is the truth. It seems that the enemy wants to make a fuss about this blank letter." Jia Sherdao said decisively, "Wishful thinking. I think so too." Sun Lang nodded and then said to Jiasu, "Any strong fortress is usually broken from the inside. Am I right, uncle?" Jiasu looked calm as he nodded. "How ridiculous. Showing off in front of the two of us." Jia Sherdao did look a bit worried, but after hearing this, he was relieved. Indeed, no matter if it was father or elder brother, they did things without any taboos. Their schemes were even more unconstrained and were mainly practical. When it came to playing with people's hearts and swindling them, they were all veterans. So, they definitely wouldn't fall for it. Right? Right? Thinking about this, Jia Sherdao suddenly thought of something. His eyes suddenly changed, and he hurriedly looked down to hide the shock in his eyes. Sun Lang and Jia Su were playing with each other, so neither of them noticed the change in Jia Sherdao's expression. After calming down, Jia Sherdao stole a glance at the two of them. However, the two of them were experienced scoundrels, old and young, and they control their expressions so perfectly that Jia Sherdao couldn't see anything. Should be fine? Am I overthinking? Sun Lang was still acting wildly with Jia Su. He smiled and said, "Ever since Tai Jia entered Ming province, I've moved from behind the scenes to the front of the stage. I've fought openly with the imperial court. So far, there have been 3 small incidents. The first is the incident with Qi Guanyin. The second is the incident with Empress going north. The third is the incident with Bai Castle. Uncle, do you know what these 3 things have in common?" Jia Su said faintly, "I don't know." Sun Lang nodded. "Then I'll tell Uncle. These 3 things have one thing in common, and that is my enemy has always been hiding in the dark, using sneaky tricks to try to plot against me or the people around me. Why is that? It's simple. Soldiers bully the weak and attack the weak with their strengths. This is war. They have to play to their strengths and avoid their weaknesses." "Then what are their strengths and weaknesses?" Sun Lang looked at Jia Su and said firmly, "Their strengths are power, reputation, flexibility, and shamelessness. Their weakness was their weakness. Cowardice. Trash. They know that in a direct confrontation, I can drag their entire country into the abyss of eternal damnation. They know that if I want to, I can ignite a fire that can never be extinguished. They know that the strategic initiative will always be in my hands. If I don't order them to fight, they will never dare to fight." Jia Su was silent. Sun Lang continued, "Therefore, the common point of these 3 small matters is the tactics of both sides. All of the arrangements and plans revolve around the same tactic. All of my plans are to create a condition, which is to seek a direct battle with the other side. But they're always hiding, running away like rats, stabbing me in the back, but they don't dare to fall out with me. They can only act cautiously and avoid a direct confrontation with me. Just like today. It has always been like this." He looked at Jia Su and said calmly, "Uncle, you should know who is the one who is afraid. Only the afraid will do anything, and only the afraid will play tricks." Jia Su was silent for a while and said calmly, "Of course, I know that. Otherwise, why would I choose to support you and place all my chips on you? Because the imperial court's attitude towards you is so careful that it is almost subtle." Sun Lang said, "It's good that Uncle knows. As a wise man, you definitely don't trust people. However, even if you don't trust people, you have to adapt to the situation. For Xiangdao's sake, I will give you one more chance. If you grasp it, you are my uncle. If you don't, you could just be a chess piece." He said, "Then, I will leave this matter to Uncle Xiangdao, and I will do something." Jia Su was shocked. "Aren't you going to interrogate Wang Qi?" Sun Lang shook his head. "There is no point. Since the enemy did such a thing, they will definitely have a backup plan. We won't get any useful information. Don't waste your energy. Not only that, the enemy tried to drive a wedge between us twice in a row. They predicted that I would eavesdrop and considered everything. As for interrogating Wang Qi, they must have made corresponding arrangements. If I interrogate Wang Qi according to their plan, I will definitely fall into their trap. Who knows, maybe there's something else waiting for me. Now that the enemy is in the dark and I am in the light, they have the initiative and everything is under their control. If I want to break out of this situation, I can't let them lead me by the nose. I have to jump out." Jia Su asked, "What is it?" Sun Lang replied, "The Wang clan came to pick a fight, and the Wang brothers delivered secrets. All of this was the enemy's arrangement. In other words, all of this is within their control. The Wang brothers were sent over by them. and the Wang clan's current problem was also sent over by them. If we solve the problem and counter their moves within their framework, sooner or later we will be schemed to death by them. Thus, we have to open another battlefield. Jia Su frowned. You mean, if we follow the Wang family's matter all the way, we will definitely be greeted by the enemy's traps and schemes. The enemy knows that we have the initiative, so we are too passive. Sun Lang said, we have to change the entry point and do things from an angle that they don't know. Jia Sherdao seemed to have thought of something. Brother, you mean, yes, there's one thing that they definitely don't know. Sun Lang smiled and said, they know the truth about Wang Ren's death, who the Wang family made a deal with, and who killed Wang Wangxing. They can influence the Wang family, get Jia Yutsuan's loyalty, and even have the Shi family support. They seem to know everything in Jinling City, but there is one thing that they definitely don't know. He said to Jia Su and his son, they definitely don't know that we hid Wang Wangxing's body in the Shi family's coffin that they took back. We will cut in from this angle. Jia Sherdao finally understood. He said in admiration, I see. You are indeed my brother. If that's the case, the chess pieces that we've planted to frame the Shi family can finally be activated. Sun Lang smiled and said, and the Wang family is no longer innocent. We can take this opportunity to stir up trouble and disrupt the overall situation. We can also force the Wang family and the Shi family into a desperate situation. At that time, let's see if they will say anything. He glanced at Jia Su without saying anything. Yes, only Jia Sherdao, Jia Su, and I know the secret. If this matter is also messed up, then Jia Su will have to settle the score with him. Then, don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Chapter 788. Sun Lang's train of thought was very clear. Since the other party had already taken the initiative and set up countless traps on this line, he could not foolishly run headlong into them. Under these circumstances, opening up a second battlefield was a very wise choice. If you want to play tricks with me, then I'll go my own way. You can play with your eggs. Wang Zixing's matter was a very good starting point. Sun Lang waved at Jia Sherdao. Let's go, Imperial Envoy. It's time for you to show off again. Hearing this, Jia Sherdao subconsciously revealed an excited expression. It seemed that he had had a great time at the Rongwa Manor and had thoroughly tasted the pleasure of causing trouble. He could not go back to the past at all. He said happily, yes. But in the next moment, a sinister gaze pierced over from the side. Jia Sherdao shivered and immediately lowered his eyebrows. His father's anger seemed to have not subsided. Jia Su looked at Jia Sherdao, who did not mind the commotion. The more he looked, the angrier he got. This little bastard, why did he act so recklessly all the time? It was all because of that boy's bad influence. It had to be said that ever since he had great doubts about Sun Lang's identity, Jia Su's impression of Sun Lang had become more and more complicated. On one hand, he truly did admire this boy's talent, wisdom, and way of doing things. After all, he liked bad things very much. But on the other hand, it was very likely that he was an imposter. If they were not family, then nothing could be said. After all, in a traditional country like the Empire, blood was the strongest bond. With blood as a bond, he could not care about anything. He could treat Sun Lang as his son. He could use his family as a bet on Sun Lang. He could choose to fight against the Empire and the Emperor without hesitation, but all of this had a premise. The premise was the blood connection. If they were related by blood, then Sun Lang was his nephew, the future of the Jia Manor, the hope of prosperity, the junior he admired the most, and the partner he could give his full support to. If not, then he was a liar, a villain, a person with bad intentions, an impostor who dragged the Jia Manor into the abyss, a schemer with bad intentions toward the Rongwa Manor. All of his actions and positions would be questioned. Jia Su felt disappointed for a moment. He sighed in his heart. Why was it like this? He had clearly returned alive, and he had clearly gained the upper hand in the game against the Empire. When these two pieces of great news were put together, what they got was the hope of the Jia family's resurgence and the glory of the Jia family. However, this wise man, who had always been decisive, felt at a loss like never before. He heard Jia Sherdao say carefully, "Father, Are we leaving? Jiasu was jolted back to reality by this call. He blinked his eyes and suddenly saw Sun Lang looking at him with a meaningful gaze. His heart skipped a beat. This brat is very astute. Don't let him see any flaws. Jiasu hurriedly covered up his absent-mindedness. In order to show that he was seriously thinking just now, he had to give some constructive suggestions. Duke Ning's mind was like lightning. He immediately thought a topic. Then, will Wang Qi be detained here temporarily? Sun Lang's expression changed slightly. He smiled and said, "What is Uncle's opinion?" Jiasu ushered in a short period of time for himself to think. He was thinking about whether Wang Qi should stay or leave. Suddenly, he thought of a very good arrangement. So he said, "It seems that you don't plan to interrogate Wang Qi for information?" Sun Lang nodded and said, "No need. There's probably some other trick waiting for me. Since I know there's a trap, I won't step into it." Jiasu nodded and said, "So he's useless now?" Sun Lang was frightened at first. Then he shook his head and said, No. He should still be testifying in court as the defendant. Uncle, take it easy. You can't harm his life or his body." Stunned, Jiasu said angrily, "Are you King done?" Sun Lang was used to being lawless. What was the point of arguing with his elders? Even if he was unreasonable, he would still stir things up. What's more, this time he was in the right. His eyes widened. "Hey, that's strange. I haven't said anything yet, but Uncle, you're the bad guy complaining first. Who was the one who made the first move in the dark prison?" "You." Jiasu was infuriated. After all, he was the one who couldn't hold himself back in the prison. That was why he had insulted Sun Lang in a roundabout way. He didn't expect Sun Lang to explode at the slightest provocation and take revenge on the spot. But what should he say? That there's a reason I criticized you? What's the reason? That's because I know you're an imposter, but I don't dare to expose you. I can only watch you perform, so I'm very angry. Thus, they had a lot of conversations. He was frustrated and annoyed. He flicked his sleeves and said, "I won't argue with you. Since Wang Qi is useless, why should he stay in Ningguo Mansion? I have to take care of him. If he dies for no reason, I can't explain it to you." Hearing this, Jia Sherdao immediately turned his elbow and said, "Father, if you don't leave him in Ningguo Mansion, are you going to send him to Rongguo Mansion? Won't that be more difficult to guard against?" Jiasu glared at him and scolded, "Bastard, you're usually quite smart and quick-witted. Why is your brain so stiff when you're with your brother?" Jia Sherdao was shocked. That was indeed the case. He basically didn't think when he was with his cousin. After all, no matter how much he thought, he wasn't as thorough as his brother. He was embarrassed. Sun Lang tried to smooth things over. "Uncle, that's a good idea. Since Wang Qi has no intelligence value, it's not good to keep him in Ningguo Mansion as a burden. We don't want a mastermind to kill him inexplicably and then turn around to drive a wedge between your father and me," Jiasu snorted. After being scolded, Jia Sherdao started to think. After a while, he had some ideas. He said, "Whether it's to silence him or to drive a wedge between us, it's very likely that the mastermind killed Wang Qi. If Wang Qi dies in the Jia Mansion, we'll be in a passive position. My brother once said that the key to solving a problem is to clear the fog and see the essence of the problem." Sun Lang smiled and nodded, his expression containing encouragement. Jia Sherdao seemed to have thought of something. "Our goal isn't to save Wang Qi's life, but to avoid being in a passive situation. Therefore, it's one way to protect Wang Qi, but it's not the only way. Since it involves energy and we can't guard against it, then we don't have to guard against it. As long as," he slowly came to a conclusion, "as long as he doesn't die in Jia Mansion and doesn't have anything to do with Jia Mansion." Sun Lang clapped his hands. "That's right. So, the last step, where's the best place for Wang Qi to die?" Now that he had found the right idea, the next step was very simple. Jia Sherdao smiled confidently and said calmly, "When it comes to setting up a plan, efficiency is the most important. Try to make everything meaningful. It's not difficult to get rid of Wang Qi, but the key is who to blame. We'll send him to the Jinling government office. He's a criminal, so he should be locked up in jail." Sun Lang nodded with satisfaction. Jiasu looked at his son. He had seen everything that had happened. He rarely saw his son speak so confidently. After all, he was like a mouse in front of a cat. As long as he made a slight move, his son would not even be able to speak properly, let alone reply fluently. A strange look flashed across Jia-Su's eyes. But he still said rudely, hindsight. Sun Lang waved his hand and said, "Don't listen to your father. He's just at Sundara. Your analysis is very correct. The plan now is to make use of the trash and throw this burden to Master Jiayutsuan. Previously, we didn't hand Wang Qi over to him because we wanted to interrogate him for information to prevent him from being silenced, to prevent him from giving false information. Now, Wang Qi has no value and has become a hot potato. It's time to throw him to Master Jiayutsuan to have some fun." Jia Sherdao smiled and said, "Yes, if Wang Qi dies in the celestial prison, he won't be able to absolve himself from the blame. At that time, I, the Imperial Envoy, will put a hat on him, and he will have to beg for mercy. With the weakness in our hands, Sir Jia will have to think carefully about what he wants to do and say." "So bad." Sun Lang blinked. "I'll go get him." After that, he walked along the tunnel and entered the dark prison with light steps. Only Jia-Su and his son were left facing each other in silence. Sun Lang's irrelevant tune came from the dark prison. Jia-Su was silent for a moment and said lightly, "Looks like you've learned a lot from your brother." Jia Sherdao, who was on tenterhooks, relaxed when he heard this. He looked like he was recalling the past and nodded gently. "Yes, my brother did teach me a lot of things. Many useful things, and even more useless things. He taught me how to think about problems, how to solve problems, how to get along with my family, how to say what's in my heart." Jia-Su said lightly, "Oh, really? Is it useful?" Just as Jia Sherdao was about to answer, Sun Lang's footsteps approached. He walked out of the dungeon with Wang Qi, who was all tied up. He smiled and said, "I knocked this guy out with a finger from afar and didn't give him a chance to say anything. Ha! He fainted for no reason these 2 times. The conversation between the father and son stopped just like that." Jia-Su glanced at Sun Lang and asked, "Are you going to the government office now?" Sun Lang said, "I wanted to go back to Rongwa Mansion first, but now it seems like I have to hurry. Speed is the most important thing in war. Let's catch them off guard." "Ha! If it wasn't for Uncle's reminder, I wouldn't have thought that Wang Qi would be so useful. If this succeeds, Uncle will take a lot of credit." Jia-Su's eyes darkened slightly. He said calmly, "Then go quickly." "Okay." Sun Lang smiled at Jia Sherdao. "Let's go find a carriage." Jia-Su watched as the 2 brothers walked away until their figures disappeared behind the courtyard wall. His eyes slowly turned gloomy. Chapter 789. At the back door of Ningbo Mansion, there was no one around. A carriage was parked alone in front of the door. At this time, Ningbo Mansion still had a ban on ordinary servants walking around. If there were bold servants wandering around here, they would definitely see this carriage, and they would be surprised to find that the coachman was none other than Lulu, who had been missing for a long time. Oh no, it was Master Jia Sherdao, who had been missing for a long time. Jia Sherdao leaned against the front door of the carriage, waiting in boredom. The unconscious Wang Qi was in the carriage, and his brother was next door. Yes, after finding the carriage and packing Wang Qi, his brother went to Rongwa Mansion. And he didn't take me. Why didn't he take me? Strange. If he was going to ask about Ping Yin, why didn't he take me with him? He took me with him before. Why didn't he take me with him this time? Was he going to whisper sweet nothings to the 2 sisters-in-law? Whisper sweet nothings in private. So he wanted to leave me aside, first to avoid being in the way and awkward? That didn't make sense. If his brother had such thoughts, how could he still be a virgin? It was too sudden to say that he was suddenly enlightened. Something was wrong. There must be something wrong. Jia Sherdao was about to think about his brother's emotional problems when he suddenly felt the carriage sink. He was shocked and turned around. His brother was already sitting on the roof of the carriage, rolling his eyes at him. "What are you looking at? Let's go." Bad attitude, bad tone, and bad expression. It meant that he had probably hit a wall. The younger brother, who knew his brother very well, analyzed in his heart. After spending a few years with this temperamental and eccentric brother, Dao had figured out how to get along with him. Without asking more questions, he immediately whipped the horse and urged it to start moving. Sun Lang flipped over and got into the carriage. Dao heard a dull sound. It was a heavy object hitting the side of the carriage. Obviously, his brother, who had entered the carriage, saw Wang Qi lying on the ground and kicked him aside. This was obviously to vent his anger. Although Dao didn't say anything, his heart started to move. His brother seemed to have hit a wall. Then the problem was clear. Who else in Ronghua Mansion could have hit a wall for him? Only his two sisters-in-law knew that he was back. Although Dayu's sister-in-law seemed aloof and difficult to get along with, that was only in front of outsiders. Although she didn't say anything to her brother, she was very obedient in her heart. How could she bear to be hit by a nail? Then there was only Shui Baochai's pleasant face appeared to his mind. And what had happened not too long ago, in front of everyone, was killed, cut in half, and beheaded. She also remembered her brother's pretentious calm expression, his strange attitude, and the strange words he said. Ah, is sister-in-law Baochai still at odds with elder brother? That can't be. In Jia Shidao's heart, Baochai's sister-in-law had always been a synonym for virtue and virtue. It was said that even in the Ronghua Mansion, no one had ever seen her angry, let alone him. She was simply the representative of a lady from a noble family, the model of a good wife and mother. This kind of woman was the most sensible. It was fine if she threw a tantrum once in a while, but how could she be angry with her husband again and again? Unless Jia Shidao looked at the sky silently. Unless her elder brother said something he shouldn't have this time and mess things up again. His younger brother sighed helplessly in his heart. He really wanted to know what had happened, but he definitely didn't dare to take the initiative to ask. But it didn't matter. If it's really as I expect after elder brother is rebuffed, he definitely won't be able to figure out what the problem is. If he can't figure it out, he'll be annoyed and then complain. As expected, Sun Lang's sigh came from the carriage. Sigh, women are so troublesome. Jia Shidao pursed his lips and smiled, casually saying, What's wrong with elder brother again? There was a moment of silence in the carriage, and then Sun Lang's angry voice came. What do you mean again? Huh? What do you mean? What do you mean? Why do you use the word again? Are you laughing at me? Are you laughing at me for not being good at dealing with women and for not being able to figure out what women are thinking? What are you laughing at? You're a virgin too. Yes, I am. Jia Shidao tried hard to suppress the laughter in his heart and said, Elder brother, you misunderstood. I see that you're very troubled. There must be something wrong with sister-in-law Baochai, right? It seems that her attitude hasn't been right before. Why? She still won't forgive elder brother now. Sun Lang snorted and then sighed. I'm curious. Why are women so difficult to please? Didn't she complain that I didn't tell her anything before? Okay, no problem. If you want to know, I can tell you. I went there this time to see if there's anything wrong and also to report to my wife about my work. I wanted to tell her what I've done here and what I'm going to do. Jia Shidao asked, and then? She was still pulling a long face at first, but I saw that she seemed to be a little happy. But after the report, I have to go, right? She was unhappy, immediately unhappy. Sun Lang was puzzled. What's going on? Is she complaining that I'm leaving so soon and hoping that I'll stay to accompany her? No way. She's a person who understands the big picture and knows the priorities. Why would she throw a tantrum about such things? She's really angry. If she does this again, I'll spank her. Jia Shidao imagined the scene of sister-in-law Baochai being grabbed and spanked by his brother and laughed out loud. If you do that, sister-in-law Baochai will definitely be angrier. Sun Lang was silent for a moment and then said faintly, Of course not. She doesn't have the strength. Jia Shidao said blankly, Huh? Sun Lang said coldly, Little brat, don't ask about this. Jia Shidao curled his lips. Ever since he analyzed that his brother hadn't been unsealed, he had established a psychological advantage over his brother in this regard, a sense of superiority that said, I've never loved, but I've F***ed. However, This world was colorful and bizarre. With the younger brother's poor imagination, he could never imagine that although his elder brother did not open the seal, he only needed one finger to kill the battle-hardened old priestess in 3 seconds. This was the so-called technical version, and he was the best in the world. He would never have thought of this possibility. Seeing his brother say so, he could only change the topic and said casually, "Sister-in-law is still angry. Did you not tell her everything?" Sun Lang frowned and said, "What?" "Sister-in-law blames you for hiding a lot of things from her. She wants you to be honest with her, but she gets angry after you tell her." Jia Sherdao muttered, "Is there something you didn't tell her?" Sun Lang subconsciously retorted, "How is that possible? I told her everything." His words stopped abruptly. Jia Sherdao asked curiously, "What?" After a moment, Sun Lang's voice sounded as if nothing had happened. "Oh, it seems like there is something you didn't tell her." Jia Sherdao asked curiously, "What is it?" "It's none of your business." Sun Lang's tone didn't fluctuate at all. "Just drive your car." The younger brother curled his lips again, but he didn't ask more. This was also the experience he had gained after a few years of being together. If the elder brother didn't want to talk about something, no matter how hard he asked, he wouldn't be able to get the answer. In the carriage, Sun Lang sat silently on the cushion. No one knew what he was thinking. What should he say? About half an hour later, the carriage was about to arrive at the destination. Jia Sherdao said, "Brother, we're almost there." Sun Lang's tone was very calm. "Are you clear about what I told you?" Jia Sherdao's voice was calm, with a hint of excitement. "Yes." Sun Lang nodded and said, "I'll watch you in the dark. You can do whatever you want. I'll take care of everything." "Okay." Sun Lang left the carriage quietly. Jia Sherdao waved the whip, and the carriage moved forward. After a while, it stopped in front of the magnificent magistrate's office. In front of the door, there were drums, stone lions, a red door, guards, and a plaque. However, the magistrate didn't seem to be holding a court. Jia Sherdao stopped the carriage directly in front of the door, jumped out of the carriage, and walked toward the door. The magistrate on both sides stopped him and said in a low voice, "Do you have a grievance or complaint? Give me the complaint paper." Jia Sherdao said directly, "Ask Jia Yutsun to come out and see me." His expression was arrogant, and his tone was arrogant. The way he spoke was imitating the elder brother he respected, so the mocking effect was excellent. The guards were furious. "How dare you? How dare you call the magistrate by his name? Who are you?" Jia Sherdao said proudly, "You don't have a right to know. Ask him to come out and see me." A guard pressed the hilt of his waist knife and shouted, "The magistrate asked for leave today because he's sick. He specifically told us not to hold a court. Otherwise, you'll be beaten for speaking so rudely. Get out." Jia Sherdao sneered. "Sick? Jia Yutsun has to crawl out, even if he's on his last breath. You bold guards, look at what this is." He flipped his palm and took out the counterfeit token. He said loudly, "See this? The golden arrow token is here. It's as if Her Majesty is here in person. Now that Her Majesty is here, how dare Jia Yutsun not come out and see her?" The shiny token with a golden dragon coiled around it looked very impressive. The guards were scared out of their wits when they saw it. They immediately knelt on the ground and shouted, "Long live Her Majesty." Jia Sherdao glared and shouted, "Go and ask Jia Yutsun to come out." The bailiffs were scared witless as they rushed in. One could faintly hear their panicked shouts. It was clear that before long, all of the civil servants in the Jinling government would know that the imperial envoy holding the emperor's golden medallion had graced them with his presence. Everyone would know. Sun Lang watched all this from the dark and sighed helplessly. "Jia Sherdao, you look like a villain who uses his power to bully others. Can't you be more careful? You'll create the image of a government officer who is arrogant and despotic. Then, you'll show your token arrow and turn it around. That's the proper way to do it. Forget it. I've achieved my goal anyway." Sun Lang's eyes became dark. "Jia Yutsun, this isn't something you can hide from." Chapter 790. Since ancient times, there were only 2 ways for imperial envoys to do things. The first was to make a big fuss and show off the king's order. Along the way, they would bring a large group of people to the office, ask for an imperial edict, dispatch officials, and begin to guide the investigation. Everything would be done according to the rules and regulations of the imperial court. Those who should be punished would be punished, and those who should be beheaded would be beheaded. This was called investigation. The second way was to quietly enter the village. They would either disguise themselves as a rich man or a traveling merchant and quietly find their way to the destination. They would give the tavern owner a considerable tip, ask about the magical conch, and find the all-knowing man in Jianghu to gather information and clues. They would observe in secret. When the evidence was complete, the vicious villain would most likely come to the door aggressively. Then, they would take out the imperial edict and F***CK them up. This was called investigation in secret. Since ancient times, there were only two ways for imperial envoys to do things. They would either win by right or by strange means. The routine was always the same. But today, there seemed to be an accident. The imperial envoy, Jia Sherdao, did not take the usual path. He came alone as a general without an army. He took out a gold medal in front of few yamen runners and started to act cool and swear. This behavior was too strange. It was like you were a special commissioner appointed by the central government. You came to the place and then took a red document from the general boss to compete with a few temporary janitors in the city government. Not to mention anything else, it was too low. But after Jia Sherdao did this, regardless of whether it was low or high, the entire yamen was alarmed. In the shortest amount of time, every department in the Jinling yamen knew that the imperial envoy came with a gold medal and said he wanted to see His Excellency. His tone was unfriendly and aggressive. It seemed that His Excellency was going to be finished. So the news spread even faster. Some people subconsciously had doubts. After all, officialdom was the best place to train people. The old foxes here were all smart and would not easily trust anyone. Was this imperial envoy real or fake? But some busybodies took a look and recognized the identity of the imperial envoy. It turned out to be the eldest son of the Ningwa family, Jia Sherdao. Thus, everyone gave an O. This imperial envoy was most likely real. After all, he was also a general of Tianyuan. Although he left after the war, his military exploits were real. Moreover, pretending to be an imperial envoy was a crime of deceiving the monarch. His Ningwa manor had a large business. So how could he do such a reckless, shady business? Immediately, several groups of people went to ask his lordship to come out and meet them. Jia Yutsuen claimed to be sick and was currently hiding in the courtyard behind the government office. Today, he had originally planned to go to Ronghua Manor to put on a two-man show with the Wang family. Unexpectedly, the imperial envoy descended from the sky and smashed the original plan to pieces. Furthermore, a profound imperial edict directly placed Sir Jia on a raging fire. The trip to the Ronghua Manor was met with a head-on blow. The Wang clan suffered a crushing defeat, and he had to return home dejectedly. The more he thought about it, the more flustered he became. It was as if he was drowning in water, and he didn't know what to do. After all, it was one thing to do a favor, but it was another to get involved in the battle between the princes. This was the highest return in the world, but it was also the most dangerous thing. He, Jia Yutsuen, didn't have such lofty ambitions. The mountains and waters of the south were beautiful, and Jinling was the land of fish and rice. Money was rolling in from both the open and the hidden. After 2 or 3 more years, he would have hope for the rest of his life. Why should he tie his head to the waist of his pants and fight for this riches and honor with his lordship? Furthermore, it seemed that his lordship's chances of winning weren't high. Thus, Sir Jia panicked. He was thoroughly panicked. Like an ostrich, he buried his head in the sand. After returning to the government office, he told the bailiffs that he was sick and needed a rest. Not to mention seeing guests. He didn't even want to hold court. This way, he could block out all the people who wanted to see him, regardless of whether they were from the Wang family or other people. At the very least, it could buy him some time to think about these things properly. However, he had never expected that the imperial envoy would come so quickly. Moreover, He came so aggressively and didn't give him any face. It was as if he was going to war. After hearing the report, his heart skipped a beat, and he completely panicked. His wife was a wife who had gone through hardships with him. She didn't have much experience, but her temper wasn't small. Today, her husband came back in a panic and said he was sick. She could see that something wasn't right, but no matter how she asked, she couldn't get an answer. At this moment, hearing the news of the imperial envoy's arrival, it was as if the woman had been struck by lightning. She sat down on the ground and shouted like a pig being slaughtered. "Damn it! It's happened! What should we do?" Jia was already extremely annoyed. Hearing his wife howling madly, he couldn't help but be filled with anger. The murderous intent in his heart exploded. He wanted nothing more than to smash this woman's head with one palm. There was no other way. According to the laws of the empire, the most important thing was the moral integrity of an official. Abandoning a wife who had gone through hardships with him was a great crime. If the mad dogs of the Imperial Censorate found out about this, it would be like dogs seeing shit. They would definitely swarm over. At that time, not to mention a mere prefectural magistrate, even a general of the Prime Minister's country would be bitten off. If this wasn't the case, this woman would have long gone back to the countryside to feed pigs. There were so many picturesque women in Jinling. Which one of them wasn't 10,000 times better than her? He was so annoyed by her howling that he yelled, "Shut up!" The prefectural magistrate's wife was scared by her husband's yell. She struggled to get up and pulled on Jia Yutsuan's sleeve. "Master, no, master, does the imperial envoy take money? We've saved up a lot over the years. I'd rather take it all out in exchange for a lighter punishment. At worst, I'll just quit being an official. There are fields and houses in my hometown. When I go back, I won't starve to death." Jia Yutsuan was originally extremely annoyed, but seeing his wife's clumsy and crude appearance, her shallow words, and her naive thinking, his heart inexplicably softened. He sighed and patted his wife's hand. His tone became gentler. "Don't panic. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just dragged into this matter." "Ah, you don't understand," the prefectural magistrate's wife said with tears in her eyes. "Isn't this still an incident? There's an old saying that if you don't do anything wrong, you won't be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. You came back today as if you've lost your soul. Didn't you do something wrong? If you ask me, you don't have to be an official. You look powerful on the surface, but if the emperor, the imperial court, the imperial envoy, or the superior wants to punish you, you can't escape. What's the use of having money and power?" Jia Yutsuan was just about to get angry when he thought of the current tricky situation. He shook his head sadly. "Madam, you're right. Okay, I'm going to see the imperial envoy." After a few words of comfort, Jia Yutsuan left the backyard in a tragic mood. After all, the imperial envoy's move was too cruel. He directly showed the token arrow and asked him to come out to meet him. That was the royal token of the emperor. His Majesty was here, but he didn't want to see him. What did he want? After seeing Jia Sherdao, before he could say anything, Jia Yutsuan saw a big black pot. This big black pot was called Wang Qi, a master of the Wang family. At this time, he was tied up and lying in the court like a pig. His eyes were closed, but it seemed that he was still alive. His Excellency's heart skipped a beat. "Sir, what do you want?" The imperial envoy smiled and cupped his hands. "Sir Jia, what are you talking about? I'm here to deliver a criminal. This person is suspected of fabricating lies and provoking the Duke's public house. He almost caused a big mess between the Wang family and the Jia family. He should be detained and awaited trial." At that time, he had already confessed to his crimes. "Sir, you heard it with your own ears." Jia Yutsuan was also a scholar, so he was quick-witted. In an instant, he thought of the trouble that Wang Qi contained. He couldn't help but whisper, "Sir, didn't you say that you want to detain and interrogate him personally?" Jia Sherdao stared and said, "What are you talking about? I'm an imperial envoy. How can I break the law and set up a private torture chamber? Interrogating him before was just a stopgap measure. I wanted to understand the situation as soon as possible. It's a special case. After this is done, naturally, he will be sent to the magistrate's office to be imprisoned and punished according to the imperial law. What? Do you have any ideas?" Damn it, of course I have ideas. If this guy is sent to the magistrate's office and dies for no reason, I'll really fall into your hands. Although Jayutsuin was very dissatisfied, he couldn't say this directly. After all, in the officialdom, there were 3 rules. Make a decision by patting one's head, promise by patting one's chest, and leave by patting one's ass. When patting one's chest and making a promise, one must shout loudly. No matter whether one could actually do it or not, one couldn't say no. Even if there were difficulties, one must overcome the difficulties, face the difficulties, and always climb to new heights. Or else, could it be that the Jinling magistrate's office was limited and couldn't guarantee the safety of the criminal? If he dared to say this, the imperial envoy could pin a few big hats on him without blinking. Jayutsuin scolded Wang Qi thoroughly in his heart, but he didn't have any good ideas at the moment. He had no choice but to make up his mind and take one step at a time. Damn it, if you kill Wang Qi without even saying goodbye and put me in a desperate situation, then I can only say sorry. He waved his hand to summon the director of the torture chamber and ordered him to bring people to take Wang Qi into custody. He also emphasized that this was an important criminal and that nothing must happen to him. Sun Lang watched all of this in the dark. He saw a few bailiffs carry Wang Qi away and sneered in his heart. A sword aura had already been planted in Wang Shidao's body. When the time came, he only needed to move his mind, and he could blow this old master of the Wang family into a bloody gourd. In other words, even if Wang Qi wasn't killed, he would die suddenly at the right time. His death would be the last straw that broke the camel's back and forced Jayutsuin, who was wavering left and right, to the side of Rongwa Manor. On the other side, Sir Jayutsuin didn't realize that he had fallen into the trap of an important person. After sending people to take Wang Qi into custody, he simply became a hoodlum and said with his hands folded, "The imperial envoy didn't come here just to hand over a criminal, right?" Jia Shidao nodded cheerfully. "Sir, you are wise. I came here to investigate this case." How could it be so fast? Could it be that he had already gotten some crucial information from Wang Qi? But looking at Wang Qi's appearance, he didn't seem to have been tortured. Jayutsuin was stunned. But no matter what, in Jinling, the imperial envoy was the most powerful person. He could do whatever he wanted. So Sir Jia Shidao nodded and said, "Since you have this intention, I will definitely cooperate." "Sir, may I ask, where should we start?" "All the officials in the Jinling government are at your disposal." Jia Shidao said concisely, "Start the court. Send people to call the Shi family and the Wang family here." "Yes, sir." "Huh." Jayutsuin noticed a subtle word. "The Shi family?" Jia Shidao looked very innocent. "What's wrong? What do you think is wrong? Isn't this a fight between the Jia family and the Wang family? Why is it related to the Shi family?" Sir Jia had a bad feeling. It seemed that there was a subtle turn of events that he didn't know about. He stammered, "Sir, did you say something wrong?" "No, it's the Shi family." Jayutsuin panicked again. But sir, aren't we investigating the matter of the Wang family going to the Rongwa mansion to pick a fight? This is a dispute between the Wang and Jia families. Why is it related to the Shi family?" "Oh, about that. Sir, you don't know." Jia Shidao's smile was no different from the grin of a big bad wolf in Jayutsuin's eyes. "When I was interrogating Wang Qi, I got an important clue from him. It's very likely that it has something to do with Wang Zixing's disappearance. You see, the Wang family falsely accused the Rongwa mansion of murdering Wang Zixing. If I want to clear the Rongwa mansion's name, I have to find out the truth of Wang Zixing's disappearance, right?" Jayutsuin nodded blankly. And Wang Qi said that a nephew of the Wang family, named Wang Run, died an unnatural death 2 days ago. As for the murderer, I think it has a lot to do with the Shi family. Jia Shidao said with a straight face. Why? This was because the Shi family had snatched Wang Rin's coffin from the morning hall in broad daylight in front of the Wang family. Why would they risk offending the Wang family to snatch Wang Rin's corpse? I think there's only one truth. That is, it was the Shi family who killed Wang Run, but they accidentally left behind important evidence. When they discovered it later, they decided to take the body away at the risk of offending the Wang family. They wanted to destroy the body and erase the evidence. It's obvious that Wang Rin's death has something to do with the Shi family. The imperial envoy announced loudly, "So, we need to send a message to the head of the Shi family." Jia Yuzun whispered, "But what does this have to do with the Wang family picking a fight with the Rongwu mansion?" "Of course it has something to do with it." Jia Shidao glared. The cause of the conflict between the Wang family and the Jia family was Wang Zixing's disappearance. When a Shi family came to the Wang family to take him away, Wang Zixing had a conflict with the Shi brothers. As the acting head of the Wang family, he might have found something on Wang Rin's body. That's why the Shi family killed him secretly and framed the Rongwu mansion. This is very likely. The logic was so reasonable and convincing that Jia Yuzun couldn't find anything to refute it. Besides, even if it has nothing to do with it, can I do something about it? The imperial envoy put another hat on Jia Yuzun. "Don't you know about Wang Rin's mysterious death, Lord Jia? The Shi brothers took Wang Rin's body in broad daylight, and Lord Jia didn't do anything about it? As the official of Jinling, can you not do anything about it when something like this happens under your rule?" His lordship was speechless. "If you don't do anything about it, I will," Jia Shidao shouted. "Why don't you send a message to the Shi family and ask their head to come here?" Jia Yuzun couldn't help but say, "It's not that I don't care, it's that I can't. The Shi family has been in the limelight for the past 2 years, and they often don't give me face. I can't do anything about it. Now, even if I send a message, whether the head of a Shi family will come or not depends on his mood." With a swish, the almighty royal token appeared in Jia Shidao's hand. He handed the token over and said, "Let the messenger take the token. I'd like to see if the old man from the Shi family will come." Chapter 791. The imperial envoy had already given the order, and with the governor's urging, the work efficiency of the yamen was naturally very high. According to the instructions of the officials, the people who were summoned were the heads of the Wang and Shi families. The Wang family was easy to talk about, but the Shi family had been in the limelight for the past 2 years. The children of the family ran amok in Jinling and did things without restraint. Sometimes they did not even give face to the yamen. Not to mention other things, when the various branches of the yamen dealt with the Shi family, most of them met with a neither soft nor hard rebuff. As the saying goes, even if your official is as clear as water, it is difficult to guard against officials as slippery as oil. Most of the secretaries in the various departments of the yamen were local people without ranks. Furthermore, father and son passed down their skills and positions in the family. In other words, although they were not part of the system and did not have any organization, they were still true local snakes. Especially in the marketplace, they had a very high reputation and social status. This kind of big shot who had connections with both the black and the white did not have much culture. They also had a lot of Jianghu habits. To put it nicely, they were quick to repay kindness and revenge. To put it bluntly, they would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. However, they were quick-witted and knew how to act according to the wind. They were the true villains among the hypocrites. For example, after offending them, if you continued to be rich and powerful, then nothing would happen. Even if you slapped their face 100 times, they would still smile and pretend to be a grandson. However, if you showed signs of losing power, they would definitely take revenge. The face they had lost in the past would be recovered 1,000 times over. For example, right now, the scribes and librarians were all quick-witted people. Seeing this extremely arrogant imperial envoy enter the yamen and point to summon the Shi family, they immediately became excited as if they had eaten Snickers bars. As mentioned before, they were all well-informed local snakes. They were well aware of the apparent unity of the 4 great families in the past few years. Imperial envoy Jia, who came from the Ninghua house, had an arrogant appearance after entering the yamen. It looked like he was relying on the emperor's favor to do whatever he wanted. This kind of teammate was good. His background was big enough, and he didn't have a sense of propriety when doing things. If he had a powerful background, it meant that he would be able to bear the responsibility after the incident, and he wouldn't be able to shirk his responsibilities and find a scapegoat. If he didn't know what he was doing, it meant that he had a decisive attitude and strong execution ability. With such a combination of a meat shield and damage dealer, he would naturally be an excellent ally. And this Imperial envoy, who looked like he had no idea, looked like he wanted to mess with the Sher family. It was simply perfect. Everyone knew that Jinling used to belong to the 4 great clans, but because of the Great War of Tianyuan, the Shui, Wang, and Jia clans declined one after another. Only the Sher clan went against the trend and became stronger and stronger. And when they became stronger, they would naturally ask for territory under the sun, but territory was limited. What could they do? Of course, they would snatch the ready-made territory. If the Sher clan wanted to develop, they would naturally have to squeeze out the interests of the other 3 clans. This was no different from digging up someone's ancestral grave. Based on this point, the Jia clan and the Sher clan originally had an irreconcilable innate conflict. Although they appeared to be harmonious on the surface, in the dark, they would seize the opportunity to make a move without hesitation. Now that this young Master Jia, who didn't look like a good person, had become an Imperial envoy, and he even had a gold medal and arrow token, how could they not use this as an excuse to make a move and make a move? As for the reason and excuse, wasn't there an infinite amount of these things? Since ancient times, there hadn't been a single clean aristocratic family. As for whether they died or rose to prominence, it all depended on the imperial court. If the imperial court said you were a virtuous person, then you were a virtuous person. If the imperial court said you were an evil force, then you were an evil force. Because of this reason, the small officials in the government office quickly united the front line. The imperial envoy and the Sher clan could not live under the same sky. It was clear that he wanted to use this as an excuse to make a move. Furthermore, looking at his arrogant and despotic appearance, it was certain that he would not withdraw his troops until he turned the sky and earth upside down. He held the gold medal and arrow token to eliminate competitors for his clan. Naturally, he had enough motivation and determination. Furthermore, even if the imperial court investigated, it would definitely be him who was held responsible. With such a heaven-sent opportunity, everyone naturally had to tightly unite around the imperial envoy. If there was a grudge, then there was a grudge to take revenge. Since they understood this point, everyone exploded with an unprecedented enthusiasm for their work. They sharpened their knives and attacked the Sher clan. Under the imperial system, the government office imitated the centralization of power by the 6 departments. In each province, county and county government office, there were 6 offices for officials, ceremonial soldiers, and penal workers. They were in charge of all matters under the government. Holding the gold medal to summon the Sher clan to the government office to listen to the investigation was snatched by the Dian, Li of the penal chamber. This Dian, Li, was surnamed Lu. He was clever in small matters, but not in great wisdom. When he spoke and did things, he only wanted to think clearly. He had an old grudge with the Sher clan. Simply put, in the past 2 years, the Sher clan had become arrogant and inflated. Originally, there were a number of casinos and brothels under their name that had to pay Dian Li a monthly salary. However, in the past 2 years, they had slowly stopped paying. Dian Li Lu had kindly come to remind them several times, but he was humiliated by the impatient Sher family. Humiliation was a small matter, but if they didn't pay up, it would be like killing one's parents. Naturally, Dian Li Lu regarded it as the greatest hatred in his life. However, before, the Sher clan had been in the limelight. No matter how much Sir Lu hated them, he could only silently wait for an opportunity. Now that the clouds had parted and the moon had risen, the imperial envoy had fallen from the sky. What was he waiting for? After Sir Lu knelt to receive the gold medal, he ordered his capable bailiffs. Carrying an unbearable excitement, a dozen people majestically charged towards the Sher clan. He was much more playful than Jia Sherdao. On the way there, he had already prepared a perfect script. Relying on his simple aesthetic instincts as a slippery official, he had meticulously concocted a perfect face-slapping drama. laying the groundwork, acting like a pig, taunting and provoking hatred, and even pretending to be pretentious and face-slapping, all in one go. Simply put, the process was like this. When he arrived in front of the Sher clan's door, he did not directly show the gold medal, nor did he say where he came from. First, he made a big fuss in front of the door and guards for a while. Then, he made a big fuss, saying that the venerable old Master Junya was here and wanted the Sher clan's third housekeeper Li Xing to come out and speak. This housekeeper Li Xing was not just anyone. He was the person who had previously humiliated Dian Li over the matter of the silver. When enemies meet, their eyes are especially red. Sir Lu suppressed the murderous intent in his heart and crazily pretended to be pretentious in front of housekeeper Li Xing. He showed off the sly and cunning face of a villain who was intoxicated with success. He kept saying that the Sher clan had to cooperate, otherwise there would be great harm. In short, he was just bragging, but he did not say that he had the gold medal token arrow. Housekeeper Li was infuriated and impatiently asked him what he wanted. That was what Dian Li had been waiting for. When he heard that, he trembled even more and arrogantly said that the Sher clan had robbed Wang Ren's coffin. After the Venerable heard about this, he ordered me to lock up the Sher clan's father and son and bring them to the magistrate's office for questioning. That was probably his tone. He was very arrogant, very domineering, and looked like a villain who was using his position to avenge a personal grudge. He looked so arrogant that it was as if the famous Sher clan's master, who had dominated Jinling in recent years, had become his prisoner. This kind of law enforcement attitude was not something that the Sher clan, the most powerful clan in Jinling, could tolerate. Even a slightly powerful clan would not be able to tolerate such humiliation. As expected, Housekeeper Li was furious. Looking at Lord Lu, who was jumping up and down and shouting, he gritted his teeth and said, "Get lost." As soon as Housekeeper Li said the word, "Get lost," Dian Li's carefully crafted plan was already half completed. Housekeeper Li immediately yelled, "How dare you stop me from enforcing the law? How dare you yell at a civil servant? Do you still have any respect for your master? Do you think that the king of Jinling can't punish you?" When it came to inducing interrogations and fishing, Housekeeper Li was nothing compared to Dian Li, who had been through hundreds of battles and had a profound family background. Soon, the two of them began to curse at each other, and the matter became more and more serious. Soon, it attracted a lot of people from the Sher clan. When Butler Li, who was extremely angry, said, "In Jinling City, the Sher family is the law," under his own guidance, Mr. Lu's body trembled violently. He felt that his soul had suddenly risen to the outside of the 33rd layer of Lihan heaven. He felt that the light of the sun was shining on his soul. He felt that his body was as light as a feather. It was as if he had entered a mysterious realm. Even time seemed to have turned back. Yes, it was turning back. He felt that he had returned to the time when he was 15 years old. On that unforgettable day, he plucked up the courage to steal some money from his father's cabinet and went to the brothel that he had been thinking about for a long time. With a red face, he went into the room and hugged the young lady who was leaning against the window and smiling at him 10 days ago. He kissed her, touched her, and hugged her soft and white body that he had never felt before. Relying on his instinct, he moved crazily. He felt that his body was cheering and his soul was singing. Then, an indescribable feeling of trembling ruled his body. From his brain to his toes, every inch of his body was trembling. Even though little Missy had long since passed away, he would never forget the feeling of that moment. It was like the calm before the storm, like the first spark before the fire. It was a kind of enlightenment, a kind of reminder, a kind of intuition. That was the voice from the deepest part of his soul. It was rooted in desire, and it let out the loudest sound before everything finally arrived. It said, "Now is the time." Lord Lu's soul was roaring. He felt that his soul, his life, his destiny, after that day when he was 15 years old, had climbed to a new peak. Just like when a young man howled and crazily moved his body, Lord Lu laughed crazily and took out the golden token arrow that was tightly clenched in his sleeve. Time was divided here. Heaven and earth were turned upside down. The sun and the moon did not shine. A simple and shallow soul at this time was sublimated. At this moment, the disciplinary officer of the Jinling government office had an epiphany. He suddenly realized that there was another thing in this world that could give him 1,000-fold pleasure in his soul other than shooting himself up. It was the pleasure that came from taking revenge. It came from the resentment and unwillingness of the lowly. It was the most primitive desire and impulse that every ordinary creature that was oppressed and exploited contained in their hearts. It was the most primitive desire and impulse that was contained in the heart of every oppressed and exploited ordinary creature. How proud and elated it was. He looked at the originally arrogant housekeeper Lee's expression change. The arrogance froze, then became shock, and then panic. He looked at the surrounding Sure family members. The disdain and contempt turned into confusion and panic. He also looked at his subordinates and companions. Their faces also showed the excitement of finally showing their trump card. Their emotions were linked together, from anticipation to finally getting what they wanted. On this day, the civil servants of the Jinling Yamen became good friends. Everyone's expressions were unprecedentedly synchronized and consistent. Awesome. The golden token represented the supreme imperial power. It represented the greatest order in the country and even the world. It represented the most powerful and credible community. Lord Lu roared, "The golden token is here. Under the orders of the imperial envoy, I have come to summon the Sure family's father and son. The ones surnamed Li, in front of this golden token, say it again. What is the law of Jinling?" Steward Li instantly realized that this was an extremely vicious and premeditated trap. He broke out in cold sweat and collapsed to the ground. Unknowingly, the crotch of his pants was already wet, under the watchful eyes of everyone. In public, he had indeed shouted out such words. The outcome could be imagined. The empire had a long history, and the imperial power was deeply rooted in the people's hearts. Not to mention, the imperial power and the majesty of the country were simply deeply rooted in the people's hearts. Everyone in the lawful camp had to unconditionally obey and respect the imperial power. For example, when the golden token appeared, the Sure family members all knelt down on the ground. The nature of this matter immediately changed. If it was a small official who came to visit, let alone the young master, he probably wouldn't even be able to see the face of the young master. A housekeeper would be able to send him away. But this time, it wasn't Dianshur Lu who came, but the golden token. It was as if the emperor had personally come to visit. If you really wanted to look at it carefully, the Sure family members, as long as they could breathe, would dress up and kowtow. The responsible ones crawled and rolled to report to the head of the family. The rest of the people knelt down on the ground. Their hearts were filled with shock and anger. Occasionally, they would glance at housekeeper Li, who was lying on the ground. They couldn't help but feel a little sympathy. This housekeeper Li was finished. But more than that, they were surprised and frightened. The golden token that fell from the sky seemed to indicate something. Housekeeper Li was indeed finished. When the head of the Sure family heard the news, he rushed over and met with Dianshur Lu. Dianshur Lu was indeed a man who clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. After acting tough, he didn't forget to follow up with a knife. He calmly repeated what housekeeper Li had said. Under the eyes of everyone, he couldn't deny it. And since Dianshur Lu came with the golden token, killing housekeeper Li was the worst thing he could do. Thus, the head of the Sure family was forced to sacrifice the rook to protect the general. Because housekeeper Li spoke arrogantly, he was ordered to be severely punished with 80 paddles and then expelled from the Sure family. This was to show that what he had said just now had nothing to do with the Sure family. And from the tone of the head of the Sure family and the 80 paddles punishment, housekeeper Li was definitely going to die. Being expelled from the Sure family was just a way to show his attitude and to avoid responsibility. As a result, Dianli Lu successfully acted pretentious and slapped people in the face. Furthermore, he used the opportunity to kill housekeeper Li, who had a personal grudge against him. Not only did he reach the peak of his life at this moment, he also understood the true meaning of the world, people lived to act pretentious and slap people in the face. All these actions were done in one go. It could be said that he was a hero. After his thoughts were clear, he began to say some polite words to show that housekeeper Lee was arrogant and domineering, and that the Sure family was strict and strict. The head of the Sure family solemnly thanked him. Of course, this was just polite words. They all knew that this was not a serious matter. Dinshirlu was very clear about public and private matters. After settling his personal grudge, he naturally began to focus on official matters. He clearly conveyed the imperial envoy's speech and spirit to the Sure family. He also went straight to the point and told Sure Leoi, "The matter of your Sure family going to the Wang family to steal the coffin has been revealed. The imperial envoy orders you to immediately take your 2 sons and Wang Ren's coffin to the Yamen and report. There is a gold medal bestowed by the emperor here. Sir Sure, please move quickly." The head of the Sure family felt as if he had eaten shit. What the F***CK, imperial envoy? Where did the imperial envoy come from? He was stunned for a moment by this blow and could not make any sense of it. The situation was like this, so he had no choice but to lower himself to chat with Dinshirlu with a smile. Normally, he would not even bother to look at such a minor official, but now he could not. He knew nothing about imperial envoys, so he had to find out some information. After taking out a stack of banknotes, he successfully gained the friendship of Dinshirlu and his group. He also found out the identity of the imperial envoy. It wasn't a secret anyway, so there was no harm in telling them. The head of the Sure family felt as if he had eaten a second pile of shit. What the F***CK Jia. He was an imperial envoy? How the F***CK was this possible? His first reaction was that this was F***king fake. His second reaction was that the emperor had taken the wrong medicine. It was no wonder that he had doubts. After all, the Sure family had a powerful backer. They also had a mission in Jinling, so they more or less knew some inside information. Ever since the famous general of the 6 armies silently died, the Jia family situation had been extremely awkward. How could Jia Sherdao be an imperial envoy? Dinshirlu didn't want to stay any longer. He also didn't know much about this matter. This trip to show off and slap people in the face was very satisfying. There was no need to hook up with the Sure family and make the imperial envoy angry. So he urged Mr. Sure to hurry up and leave, in case the imperial envoy got anxious. With such a big thing happening, even the old and cunning head of the Sure family didn't know what to do at the moment. He could almost feel the malice coming from Jia Sherdao and the imperial envoy. No matter what, breaking into someone's home and taking the coffin of someone's family member out of the mourning hall was really outrageous. It didn't make sense at all. Jia Sherdao wanted to use this opportunity to cause trouble, and he was right. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but get angry. Mother of Asterisker, those 2 little bastards. All of this was clearly the fault of Sure Tai Long and Sure Wengong. If those 2 little bastards hadn't taken the coffin on a whim, how could Jia Sherdao have caught them? And the most important problem was that Wang Ren's coffin couldn't be opened at all. Those 2 little bastards' reason was that they had discovered something strange about the coffin and felt that it must have something to do with that thing, so they took it home to study. This reason made sense, but the problem was that the coffin was really strange. No matter how much they studied it, they still couldn't open it. Now that the imperial envoy had sent someone to rush them, this matter most likely couldn't be denied. After all, not only were there many people in the Wang family who could testify, there must have been many people on the streets who saw the 2 little bastards take the coffin and gallop on their horses. Now that they had the token and arrow, were they going to just hand over the coffin like this? Fine. The token and arrow were here. This matter wasn't a crime. It was better to first hand over the coffin and then write a letter to that person to ask them to investigate what exactly was going on with the imperial envoy. Then they would ask how they should deal with it. As for the imperial envoy, he would first make up a similar reason to fool them. In any case, I've thought of everything, even using the common sense of the strange people, but no matter what, I can't open the coffin. If it were you, you wouldn't be able to open it either. Chapter 793. The sure father and son had already made up their minds. Hearing Jia Shidao's question, Sure Tailong immediately cupped his hands and said, "Sir, it is true that my younger brother and I robbed Brother Wang's coffin that day and disturbed an old friend. We really shouldn't have done that. However, Sir Imperial Envoy, the reason why we did this was because we had no choice." Jia Shidao asked, "Difficulties?" "Yes." Sure Tailong looked at the Wangs and said loudly, "When we heard that Brother Wang was gone, we were really shocked. We hurriedly rode to the Wang's house to pay our respects. Who knew that the Wangs didn't wear linen or put up banners? They only let Brother Wang's coffin stay in the hall. What's more, they didn't even allow my sister-in-law and nephew to stay with the coffin. How could this be? We were anxious and rushed into the hall to check the body, but we found that the coffin was like a piece of mixed iron. We couldn't lift it or open it. It seemed that the Wangs had welded it shut with a secret method." An elder of the Wangs shouted, "Bullsh *T. Who welded the coffin shut?" Stallone had nothing to fear. In any case, there were only two possibilities for this coffin. First, even if he used all his strength, he wouldn't be able to open it. Second, once he opened it, Wang Rin's terrifying ghost would come out. There wouldn't be a third possibility. Therefore, it was extremely safe to say this. He sneered and said, "Whoever has a guilty conscience is the one who is welded to death. Please investigate." When we couldn't open the coffin, the uncles of the Wang family came in a fury. Without asking for the reason, they immediately told us to scram. They didn't care about the two of us questioning them, as if they were busy trying to cover up the truth, causing my brother Wang to die without knowing why. Although I'm not a gentleman, I'm still a righteous person. Various facts have proven that there's something fishy about my brother's death. That's why we didn't hesitate to rob his coffin to get to the bottom of this matter. His expression was sincere, and his voice was powerful and resonant. In addition to his tall stature and heroic appearance, he had the appearance of a chivalrous hero. He was very deceptive. "Imperial Envoy, please investigate thoroughly." Jia Shidao turned to look at an elder of the Wangs. "What do you have to say?" "Nonsense," the old man of the Wang family said angrily. "You can say whatever you want, but is it a glorious thing to break into someone else's residence and steal their coffin? Not only have you violated the laws of the empire, you have also humiliated the Wang clan. Be it for public or private reasons, there is no need for us to let this matter rest." Stallone's son Rand said, "This old man is trying to evade the topic. I only want to ask you, why did my Wangrin younger brother's funeral turn out like that? That even sister-in-law is not allowed to keep vigil by his coffin?" The old master of the Wang family smiled coldly and said, "That is because Wang Rin's death was indeed strange. At first, it cannot be made public. After all, family shame should not be aired in public. On this point, the Imperial Envoy should understand." He seemed to be implying something. Whether it was Wang Rin's fatal wound or the records of the people who came and went in the house, all the evidence and signs pointed to the same person. Wang Rin's sister, Wang Shifeng, was the biggest suspect, and Wang Shifeng had already married into the Rongwa mansion and was the granddaughter-in-law of the Rongwa mansion's Dowager Duchess. She was almost the real power figure of the younger generation in the Rongwa mansion. If such a person was involved in the scandal of kinslaying, it would not look good for either the Rongwa mansion or the Wang clan. This old man of the Wang clan also saw this point, which was why he hinted to the Imperial Envoy vaguely. When this happened, the Wang clan would first cover it up and second, maintain stability. Everything was for the common benefit of the Jia mansion and the Wang clan. "Shinya, you must understand, right?" But Jia Shidao did not understand. "I just returned home, and I haven't heard the inside story of Wang Rin's death." He smiled slightly. "But, old man, it sounds like you're in the wrong in this matter. The family has family rules, but the country also has national laws. Only when there is a country can there be a family. The family is the smallest country, and the country is thousands of families. Now that this has happened, you should first report it to the officials." None of the people of the Wang clan who had returned had participated in the Rongwa mansion before. In order to avoid being recognized by the Imperial Envoy, they would only be hated by Jia Sherdao. Thus, this old man did not know the details of the Rongwa Mansion matter. Seeing that the imperial envoy was not giving him any face, he unconsciously became angry. Then he heard the imperial envoy's earnest and well-meaning advice. I still remember how eloquent your Wong clan was when you were in the Rongwa Mansion. When you heard that there was a murder case in the Rongwa Mansion, you chose to report it to the officials based on the simple concept of justice and the rule of law. We also admire this spirit of the rule of law. Why is it that when it comes to your Wong clan, you have a different attitude? This group of people who can't do anything right, but are good at spoiling things. The old man couldn't help but blush. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Jia Sherdao didn't seem to intend to pursue the matter. He looked at the two sides and said lightly, right now, both sides are sticking to their own version of the story. It's hard to distinguish right now. I think that the key to this matter is the cause of Wang Ren's death. Since Wang Ren's coffin is here, it's not impossible for us to open the coffin and examine the body in court. As soon as he said this, old man Wang cried out no. With the professionalism of the government coroner and the martial arts experience of everyone present, after examining Wang Ren's body, they would immediately be able to determine the identity of the suspect. When that time came, the dirty linen of the Rongwa Mansion and the Wang clan would be completely exposed. This was the Jinling government office, and the walls of the government office would already be full of holes. When that time came, both of them would be embarrassed together. Sherwin Gong then said in a strange tone, "Indeed, this coffin has been cursed by the Wang clan. It's hard to damage with swords and knives. It must be hiding some big secret. Now that the coffin is opened, won't everything be exposed in broad daylight?" The Wang clan people scolded, "Nonsense. Even if you want to examine it, it has nothing to do with the Shi clan." Sherwin Gong did not fall for this kind of provocation. Hearing this, he nodded and said, "Of course. The imperial envoy has sharp eyes and sharp eyes. This kind of thing should naturally be investigated by him." Jia Sherdao looked at the Shi brothers as if nothing had happened. In all his life, this was the first time he had seen these two bastards of the Shi clan with such talent for comedy. He could not bear to see them like this. However, it was the Shi clan's fault for stretching their hands too far. How dare they be disrespectful to their great-grandmother? As he thought of this, he waved his hand and said, "I am doing things under the authority of the king. I am loyal to the country. I have a clear conscience in everything I do. I have to do it openly. Since Wang Ren's death is involved in all kinds of doubts, I have to reveal the truth in front of everyone. Men, open the coffin." Previously, Dianli Lu, who had successfully pretended to be pretentious, had already obtained an epiphany and a sublimation of his soul. Regardless of whether it was his horizons, the level of his thinking, or Marlowe's demands, they had all risen to a completely new level. Presently, his thinking had advanced, and his attitude was very positive. It was as if he had been reborn. Hearing the imperial envoy's orders, without another word, he led his bailiffs forward. The Shi family's father and son crossed their arms and stepped aside. Minister Shi sneered and said, "Dianshi Lu, I advise you not to waste your energy. The coffin was cursed by the Wang family. Only they know how to open it." Of course, he was slandering the Wang clan. Old man Wang said angrily, "What kind of curse is this? You only know how to spout nonsense." He was old but strong, and his kung fu was still good. Hearing the Shi family's continuous provocation and seeing Jia Sherdao's stubbornness, his patience had run out. He flashed out of the crowd, came to Wang Ren's coffin, and hit it with his palm. "Fine, fine, fine. If you want to see, then go ahead." With a bang, the heavy hand that could shatter stone hit the coffin lid with a dull explosion. Logically speaking, even if the coffin lid was firmly fixed, it should have been blown away by this palm. However, it did not move an inch. Amidst the awkward silence, Minister Shi said, "Uncle, you're getting old." The old man was furious. He punched again, and there was a faint sound of wind and thunder. The strength was a bit stronger than before, but still, nothing happened. Sherwin Gong said lightly, "Brother, how come the thunder is so loud but the rain is so small?" Sure, Tai Long's expression was normal. You don't know this. According to the old legends, when the boxing is practiced to the extreme, the balance of yin and yang, the combination of hardness and softness, and the strength of the fist can be bent and straight as one wishes. It is called hitting a cow across a mountain. Look at the coffin, it is not moving. Perhaps the body of Wang Ren inside has already been smashed by the unparalleled godly fist. Shi Gong pretended to be surprised. The old man did not open the coffin. Why did he hit Wang Ren? The two brothers were singing the same tune, and it was really tricky. Grandpa Wang was so angry that he finally gave up pretending to be strong with his boxing skills. He directly posed like a conqueror, carrying a tripod, and tried to open the coffin. However, it still did not move. It did not move. Grandpa Wang finally realized that something was wrong. He took a few steps back and looked at the Shi family. He said sternly, "What kind of witchcraft did you use? No wonder you were willing to hand over the coffin so easily." Shi, Tai Long said coldly, "Are you trying to frame us?" "I am very sorry, Grandpa. We have already said that we could not open the coffin in the first place. However, you, Grandpa, first sealed the coffin and then put on an act in the government office. Is there something hidden in the coffin that you did not dare to let outsiders see? Is it because Wang Ren's death was very strange, and you could tell that there was something unusual about it at first glance? Is that why you did not set up a mourning hall and did not allow the family to keep watch? Tell me, what is in the coffin?" Jia Shidao could not hold it in anymore. Really, he was afraid that if this continued, his heart would really soften. Grandpa Wang and Shi Tai Long were at each other's throats, glaring at each other angrily. Both the Shi family and the Wang family were at loggerheads at the same time. The atmosphere gradually became tense again. "It's finally my turn to shine," Jia Shidao said in his heart. He took a few steps forward, his expression calm and his eyes indifferent. Without a trace of anger, he reached out his hand and gently touched the heavy coffin. His whole movement was smooth, and he looked like a master. The people could not help but shut their mouths. The imperial envoy said indifferently, "There is indeed a powerful curse on the coffin, so even with the strength of old Master Wang's hands, he could not move it at all. The person who cast the curse must be the most talented person in the world, an unparalleled person, a genius from the heavens, with exceptional means." Grandpa Wang heard this and rolled his eyes in his heart. Wasn't this nonsense? The Shi brothers sneered in their hearts. They knew that Jia Shidao was showing off. What genius! What peerless! The coffin could not be opened no matter what. It was obviously Wang Ren's ghost causing trouble. Silver Spear Jia Shidao was used to showing off in Jinling when he was young. Even now, he was still so stubborn. Firstly, it was because of competition. Secondly, it was because of hostility. Shi Gong's tone was very respectful. "You are very knowledgeable and have unparalleled martial arts. I am very impressed. Do you mean that this curse is very difficult to break?" Jia Shidao looked at him with a half-smile and nodded. "I said that the person who cast the curse must be the most talented person in the world. Just from this curse alone, you can see that he is very knowledgeable and knowledgeable. He must be a very talented person in the world. There are very few people in the world who can break this curse." Shi Gong looked like he had learned something, but he was laughing in his heart. "Hypocrite, what a hypocrite. You can't break it yourself, but you just want to put gold on the face of the person who cast the curse to show that you are not so useless. But you are wrong. There was no curse at all, nor was there any talented person. The person who sealed the coffin was a confused ghost who died for no reason, just like your cousin." Ha ha! He was laughing in his heart when he heard Jia Shidao say calmly, "Coincidentally, I am one of them." The imperial envoy waved his sleeves gently, not taking away a cloud. An indescribable, invisible force gently brushed past, like a breeze blowing a bud, like a drizzle sprinkling on the earth, quiet and gentle. Then he said, "It's broken." Everyone was taken aback, and they all revealed bewildered expressions. It was solved just like that? Jia Shidao shook his head and sighed, as if he was sighing at the ignorance of the world and his own nobility. He pointed his finger, and with a soft sound, the coffin slid open automatically under everyone's surprised gaze. When Sher Tai Long and Sher Wen Gong saw this, a terrible memory in their hearts was awakened. They shivered at the same time and took a step back together. Wang Ren's ghost was coming out, but he didn't come out. The crowd was not close to the coffin, and the coffin was extremely heavy and tall. No one could see the situation inside the coffin clearly. Only Wang Ren's widow, who had been taught the 3 obediences and 4 virtues since she was young, remembered the relationship between husband and wife. Therefore, she immediately rushed to the side of the coffin. She held on the coffin and cried, "Minister!" Then she couldn't shout anymore. The poor little widow widened her eyes as if she couldn't believe what she saw. After a moment, she screamed in horror, "Ah!" This voice was full of shock and horror, as if she had just seen the corpse of the wrapped Zongzi. It was a sharp female voice, and for a moment, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. The Sher brothers took another step back. They saw it. She saw her husband's ghost. Old Man Wang was indeed the old ginger of the Wang family. After all, there were 2 types of old people. One was those who were more afraid of death as they lived, and the other was those who felt that they had lived enough. The former slowly became timid, while the latter became braver as they lived. Old Man Wang belonged to the latter. He was frightened by the little widow's scream, so he went forward and pulled the woman back. "What's the fuss?" Then he also saw the thing inside the coffin. Old Man Wang's eyes were also wide open. His beard was like a halberd, and his voice was full of shock and anger. He subconsciously shouted, "Ah!" The Sher brothers took another step back. Attack! Wang Ren's ghost was launching an attack. Grandfather Wang's reaction gave everyone a fright. The imperial envoy seemed to be conceited about his godly skills. He took 2 steps forward and casually glanced at him. Immediately, his eyes widened. "Ah!" More and more curious people joined the crowd. Only the Sher family's father and son wisely hid outside. Magistrate Jia, the rest of the Wang family, and even the Yamen officials squeezed at the side of the coffin and saw the scene inside. Then they all shouted in shock, "Ah!" Squire Sher was very confused. He looked at his 2 sons, and then looked at the people who were playing the scream. For a moment, he didn't know what had happened. Stallone glanced at his father and whispered, "I'm afraid they saw something extraordinary." "Father, don't be surprised." Minister Sher whispered, "What is it?" Sher Wen Gong said mysteriously, "In short, it's something that's quite shocking." The father and son were whispering to each other when they suddenly felt that the atmosphere was not right. They didn't know when, but the shouting had disappeared. The air suddenly became quiet. They turned their heads and saw a group of people beside the coffin. They were all looking at them with a complicated gaze. This gaze was very powerful. It gave the father and son 3 of fright. Minister Sher couldn't help but smile. "Why, do we have to see it too?" A storm was brewing in the hearts of the Wang family. Grandfather Wang's eyes were red. He roared, "Bastard!" Everyone in the Wang family also roared, "Blood for blood." The imperial envoy's eyes were full of sighs. "I didn't even need to do anything." Jie Yutsuen also sighed. "You may know a person's face, but not his heart." Minister Sher's heart thumped. He immediately felt that the situation seemed to be out of control. Even Stallone and Sher Wen Gong felt that something was wrong. The head of the Sher family said, Where did this come from?" The crowd silently dispersed. Sher Ichuan slowly approached, until he saw the thing in the coffin, until he saw what he had always wanted to see. It was a person, a dead person, the dead person lying in the coffin. This was not nonsense. This person was not Wang Ren. His face was pale, his lips had lost their color. His eyes were tightly closed. His soul had already disappeared. The dead person lay in the coffin, sleeping forever. His name was Wang Zixing. He was the acting head of the Wang family. It was not Wang Ren. In an instant, Minister Sher felt the blood in his body boil. Even with his intelligence and shrewdness, he was completely flustered. Why was it like this? Why was it like this? Why was Wang Zixing's body here? How'd he die? Why'd he die? Who killed him? Why was the body inside? After the coffin was sent back, it could not be opened. The thing inside had not been touched. If there was someone who could hide it from the world, then it must be. He suddenly turned his head and looked at his two sons. There was not the slightest bit of kindness in his eyes. There was only a fierce and cruel light. What was going on? Sherwin Gong and Stallone also felt that something was wrong. They quickly rushed forward and also saw the person in the coffin. Wang Zixing. It was Wang Zixing. Even the cunning He was scared to this extent, not to mention his two sons. Their blood instantly froze. They screamed in unison. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.